Li Rongzai was extremely terrified. The moment he saw the genetic warrior, he knew why the other party was here, and it was definitely for him. A week ago, Li Rongzai received a transoceanic call from a Thai boss on Wall Street, who personally gave the order to crack down on Jekka Group's smuggling channels within South Korea. Li Rongzai, of course, knew the power of Jekka Group, but the person on the phone was a Wall Street boss. His Lee family at Samsung Group is said to be the largest chaebol in South Korea, but the actual major shareholder is not his Lee family, but those from the beautiful country's wealth, with Wall Street holding the largest share. Li Rongzai dared not disobey. They in South Korea have no autonomy, recognizing the beautiful country as their father, and his Lee family couldn't speak of independence and freedom in front of Wall Street. Additionally, Li Rongzai harbored a glimmer of hope, thinking they were only targeting local smuggling gangs and not confronting Jekka Group directly. So Jekka Group wouldn't do anything to him. He admitted there was an element of gambling in his decision, and now, seeing the figure of the genetic warrior, he knew he had lost the bet. Jekka Group's response exceeded expectations, deploying genetic warriors, which was a high-end business battle to physically eliminate his Lee family. Jekka Group, this is too much. Do they really think there are no people in South Korea? Chief Han, please immediately. Cold sweat slid down his forehead as Li Rongzai was overwhelmed by fear. The always gentle and elegant Li Rongzai had already lost his composure and urgently sought help from Chief Han Shangshuan, a police bigwig beside him. Are you kidding? How can a genetic warrior appear here? Quickly find someone to protect me and take me out. However, Han Shangshuan, whom Li Rongzai regarded as a savior, was even more out of sorts, pale and screaming in terror. It wasn't just him. The big shots from both the political and business circles of South Korea attending the ceremony were all pale and panic-stricken. How could a genetic warrior appear here? Quickly call the army. Who brought the genetic warrior here? Someone must have offended Jekka Group. Don't drag us into their retaliation. Immediately notify the beautiful country's stationed troops and have their army deal with them. The big shots were extremely afraid and occupying high positions. They didn't want to be affected by the genetic warrior in a disaster, ending up dead on the spot. Only a small number of people on the scene knew why the genetic warrior had come. In the Samsung headquarters building, a group of bigwigs was leaderless, and the square downstairs was not much different. That's a genetic warrior. A genetic warrior from Jekka Group. The many police officers surrounding the mud truck at the scene also recognized Sichuang's origins. They do go online, and the appearance of a genetic warrior clad in second-generation biological armor is well known worldwide. Who doesn't know that this is the most powerful individual force of Blue Star? Every genetic warrior wearing biological armor is an incredibly terrifying killing machine, with countless lives on their hands. A god of death who emerged from the corpse mountain and blood sea, gaining fame in successive wars and known to the world. Bang! Just when the atmosphere on the scene was tense, a gunshot suddenly rang out. A South Korean police officer, aiming at Situang, accidentally touched the trigger due to excessive tension. The handgun fired, and the bullet hit Sichuang's face, only to be deflected by the biological armor, causing little damage but a great deal of insult. The scene fell silent for a moment, and each South Korean police officer looked at the shooting officer as if they wished to tear him to pieces. Even regular armies struggle to resist the genetic warriors, let alone them armed only with light weapons. At this time, daring to provoke is a quick path to death. The shooting officer himself was also stunned, with an expression of disbelief. But before he could explain anything, he suddenly felt the world spinning. Then he saw a headless body standing, with blood gushing from its neck. That headless body looked incredibly familiar. Upon closer inspection, was it not his own body, complete with an unblemished police badge? Realizing this, his vision completely darkened, and his consciousness faded away. From Sichuang's waist and hip grew a long tail, a silver chain whip, thin and sharp, now slowly retracting from the headless corpse. This was a close combat weapon manifested by the second-generation biological armor paired with his own gene ability, dripping blood from above. Start now. Clear the obstacles. Sichuang's eyes were cold, And after giving this command, another fully armed genetic warrior wearing second-generation biological armor disembarked from each of the other two mud trucks. Situong himself moved first, the extending and retracting silver chain whip-tail like a blade cutting through iron like mud, slicing countless bodies to pieces as he charged forward at high speed. The silver chain whip-tail extended from behind Situong and could reach several dozen meters. A police officer felt a flash of silver before his eyes. Then his neck was pierced and torn apart. The silver chain whip-tail unstoppable, continuously piercing through several police officers like skewering candied haws. As the tail swung, the officers were flung away, knocking down many others. "You monster, I'll—" a South Korean police officer shouted in fear, drawing his gun to fire. But as soon as he raised the gun, his wrist felt a sudden chill, and he found he couldn't pull the trigger no matter what he tried. Looking down, he discovered his hands had been severed by the silver chain tail whip, the cuts neat and uniform, with his broken palms falling to the ground, still clutching the gun, but unable to pull the trigger again. "Oh!" The policeman screamed violently, holding up his hands that were only half remaining, with fractured blood vessels spewing blood. Situong passed by him, a flash of silver, and his screams abruptly ceased as his body split in half from forehead to groin, divided by the silver chain whip. Seeing this, several South Korean policemen nearby turned around and ran away in fear. But they couldn't outrun the genetic warriors. As the silver chain whip swiped past, several policemen were instantly cut in half, their upper bodies falling to the ground, instinctively clawing at their bodies due to the excruciating pain. The intestines trailing from their abdominal cavities left a long blood stain on the ground, their screams chilling to the bone. Swish, swish, swish. It was like mowing grass. Everywhere Situong passed, there were dismembered limbs and shattered bodies, as if a large slaughterhouse, bloody and horrifying. Compared to Situang's violence, the other two genetic warriors were relatively gentle. One wielded a Gatling machine gun, the 6 barrels spinning at high speed, thousands of rounds per minute sweeping over, and one policeman after another was riddled like honeycombs, creating huge bloody holes, dying quite swiftly. The only downside was the tracers mixed in with the barrage were extremely visible even during the day, like the scythe of the Grim Reaper harvesting lives, adding to the terrifying atmosphere. The other genetic warrior had 2 mercury-like arms sprouting from his shoulders, each holding a heavy machine gun, wildly shooting at any enemy in view, while wielding a flamethrower, emitting high-fuel flames from the muzzle, turning many policemen into human torches. Even with hundreds of police officers on the scene, they were as fragile as lambs waiting to be slaughtered before these 3 genetic warriors, completely not on the same level of opposition. Within a short time, the Samsung headquarters building turned into a battlefield, with numerous policemen dead, their screams incessant, the intense smell of blood sickening. All South Korean police collapsed, fleeing recklessly. The genetic warriors did not pursue. As long as the targets escaped their line of sight, they were left to their own devices. Meanwhile, the genetic warriors stepped over the corpses beneath their feet, heading towards Samsung headquarters building. The whole process seemed lengthy, but in reality, from the genetic warriors' appearance, killing spree, and ascending the building, the chaos upstairs had yet to cease. Particularly upon witnessing the genetic warriors begin killing, with the gunshots unceasing, it made the big shots upstairs panic, running around frantically like headless chickens to hide. Find Lee Rongzai, and all other Lee family members, completely wiped them out. Situong stepped into the building, releasing the eye worm from his palm, issuing the order coldly. One genetic warrior stayed on the first floor to prevent target persons from escaping, while another genetic warrior began searching separately from Situong. Although this Samsung headquarters building was large, for genetic warriors with scouting eye worms, sharp senses, and rich reconnaissance methods, those playing hide-and-seek were basically nowhere to hide. Crunch! A room was opened, and a genetic warrior walked in, making the South Korean dignitaries who were hiding inside tremble upon hearing the door open. The room lights were turned on, and the genetic warrior swept a cold gaze. Some were hiding under the bed, some in the bathroom, some behind the curtains. As the genetic warrior entered, Another person was desperately trying to squeeze his fat body into the wardrobe, stuck halfway with nowhere to go. These dignitaries were as pathetic as could be at this moment. Some were high-level judges, some were business tycoons, some high-ranking officials. Yet now, without exception, they were no different from ordinary people in front of the genetic warriors with the power of life and death, their mindset even more fragile. Bang! The genetic warrior held a booklet in his hand, kicked the bed away with one foot, revealing the dignitary trembling beneath. "Spare my life. Don't kill me. I am willing to support the development of Jekka Group. Whatever you want to do is fine." The dignitary under the bed screamed, with a wet spot spreading on his pants. It's not this one." The genetic warrior looked at the man's face and then moved on, continuing to search for the next. Meanwhile, on a higher floor, Situang entered an office hall where dozens of people were hiding, including members of a girl group participating in a celebration performance, high officials, and chefs. When Situang entered, several women's screams echoed on the scene. Situang walked to the people hiding, scanning coldly with his gaze. "Sir, no matter how much money you want, I will give it to you." A wealthy merchant dared to plead with the genetic warrior, trembling. Situang offered no response, nor did he choose to act. Someone's courage swelled, attempting to run away. But as soon as the person trying to escape stepped out a few steps, their heart was pierced by the silver chain whip. "Everyone, lift your heads and face me," Situang said calmly, with the threat of murder. How could the crowd dare refuse the command of this killing god? Hurriedly raising their heads, even the crying girl group members were the same. Situang held a booklet which was a photo album, with pictures printed on it. "Li Bin Min, right?" Situang looked at a man, and before the man could respond, his eyes turned cold, and the silver chain whip whistled out, instantly splitting the man vertically in half, blood spattering the surrounding people's heads and faces, causing screams to arise one after another. "Li Shumin, Li Wunpan, Li Jiping." Situang followed the album to kill. These victims were both men and women, without exception. All of them belonged to the Samsung Li family. The people at the scene also reacted and quickly distanced themselves from these members of the Li family, fearing they would be caught in the crossfire. "It's none of my business. It was my elder brother who wanted to target your Jekka Group's smuggling routes. I tried to dissuade him." A man stood up excitedly. His name was Li Shuguang, overseeing numerous industries like Samsung Trading. He was a high-ranking figure in the Li family, and his brother was the current family head, Li Rongzai. The response he got was Situang's fist, a steel punch smashing out, leaving Li Shuguang, a big shot in the Li family, with his head pulverized, brain matter splattered on the wall. So many excuses and reasonings. As long as you're with the Li family, that's enough. Situang glanced over the quail-like frightened crowd, turned around, and walked straight out. After Situang left, the scene was filled with rapid breathing and the sobs of those who survived the catastrophe, crying tears of joy. "Alive! Alive! Asaba!" It turns out it was the Li family's offense against the Jekka Group. These troublemakers almost got us killed. How dare the Li family provoke Jekka Group? No wonder they ended up like this. They truly had it coming. Many cursed it out loud, hating the Li family for provoking the Jekka Group, bringing this uncalled-for disaster upon them. Under normal circumstances, they wouldn't dare do so, but now the Li family was hanging by a thread. Anyone could see that even if they didn't die, they would suffer severe damage this time. The Jekka Group was not someone the Li family could mess with. On the other side, Situang continued following the album to kill. As long as they belonged to the Samsung Li family, regardless of gender or age, they were all executed. When Situang reached the 25th floor of the building, he finally saw his main target for today, Li Rongzai. He was dragged out from under the desk by Situang. Most of the bodyguards had fled, and the few who hoped to gain promotion through loyalty were casually disposed of by Situang. "Li Rongzai, you must know why I'm here. Tell me, who gave you the order?" Situang asked directly with a calm expression. Li Rongzai gritted his teeth and said hatefully, "I won't speak." Even if he spoke, there was no escaping death. If he didn't, Maybe Wall Street would protect their Li family, considering his willing sacrifice. It has to be troublesome. Sometimes, dying quickly is a blessing. Situang shook his head. There might be men who fearlessly endure torture in this world. But Li Rongzai, born and raised with a silver spoon in his mouth, wasn't one of them. The silver chain whip at the end began to swing, its cold light flickering, slowly approaching him within Li Rongzai's frightened gaze. The next moment, the room echoed with screams that weren't quite human, mixed with countless pleas for mercy laced with curses. Enough to give anyone goosebumps and make their hair stand on end. After more than 10 minutes, Li Rongzai, nearly reduced to an unrecognizable state, cried bitterly, hysterically shouting, "Stop, stop torturing me. I'll say everything. I beg you for a quick death. It's you Tai from Wall Street." At this point, the once gentle head of the Li family was now covered in bruises. His groin wet, defecating and urinating, with an unpleasant odor permeating the air. Situang put away the recording pen in his hand and looked at Li Rongzai, who was begging pitifully like a whipped dog, regretting bitterly, praying only for a swift death. He sneered, "In your next life as Wall Street's dog, remember not to be so obedient. Even your master dares not easily provoke such enemies, yet you rush up to bark like a monkey. If you don't die, who will?" With that, Situang turned and walked out, slamming the door heavily, leaving Li Rongzai behind to suffer 1,000 cuts, writhing in agony. The other party wanted a quick death, but Situang deliberately denied his wish, making him endure pain and torment before dying, thus walking towards death with regret and suffering. So painful. Don't go, kill me, kill me." In the room was only left Li Rongzai's tragic cries. His toughness made his departure far from peaceful. The piercing screams persisted, like a cuckoo wailing, growing weaker and weaker until the sound completely ceased. Situang re-entered the room, confirmed Li Rongzai's death, severed his head with a single stroke, took it to the entrance of the Samsung headquarters building, and nailed it to the door plaque with steel rods, allowing everyone to see the fate of the head of the largest conglomerate in South Korea who dared to offend the JECA Group. Inside the entire Samsung headquarters building, besides Li Rongzai, the other members of the Li family were killed one by one, leaving no survivors. Attendees of the celebration were all important figures or potential elite successors of the Li family. Now, being completely wiped out, it's no exaggeration to say that the Li family, which reigned over South Korea for decades, is virtually extinct, with a century's accumulation lost overnight. When the genetic warriors were wreaking havoc inside the Samsung headquarters building, the entire Seoul plunged into chaos. The Seoul police in South Korea received numerous emergency calls and dispatched a large force, because the Samsung Group's influence in South Korea was enormous, and South Korea did not want anything bad to happen to the Samsung Group. But wanting to achieve something is one thing, whether it can be achieved is another matter entirely. On a road leading to the Samsung headquarters building, a police car dispatched to the nearby area received a notice from the headquarters, making its way towards the Samsung headquarters building. "Chief, there's a traffic jam ahead. Let's drive the wrong way on the side." In the passenger seat of the police car, a newly recruited female officer, Choi Huimin, said loudly. Due to a traffic accident on the road ahead, the traffic was heavily congested, making it difficult for the police convoy to proceed. "Asaba, follow the traffic rules honestly. We're police, we should adhere to traffic even more so." The driving chief, Park Chong-min, was a seasoned veteran. He rolled his eyes at the remark and said irritatedly, "But Chief, the Samsung Group is still waiting for our support. In urgent cases, let's adapt to the situation." Choi Huimin was dumbfounded, still not understanding the issue at hand. "It's permissible for us police to slightly bend the traffic laws to catch criminals." Park Chong-min twitched at the mouth. How did he get assigned such an oblivious rookie? He said helplessly, "You silly girl, are you rushing over there to die? My old comrades have already called me. The situation there is very dire. With our light weapons, how are we supposed to fight the genetic warriors?" The handgun at your side is no different from a fire poker against them. As he spoke, he gave Cui Huimin a stern glare. Although the rookie had a decent figure, was her brain situated in those two masses of fat on her chest? She had no sense of avoiding harm and maximizing benefits. They were very flexible in their police duties. But Cui Huimin was somewhat unconvinced. She, who had yet to be battered by society, still cherished a righteous heart for her uniform. I'm the chief here, rookie. Listen and obey. Park Chong-min interrupted her, saying without room for argument. He still wanted to live a few more years, and getting involved in the rivalry between the JECA Group and the Samsung conglomerate wasn't the way. Cui Huimin pouted, but with Park Chong-min as her superior and the team leader, she could only choose to follow orders. After being stuck in traffic for more than 10 minutes, Park Chong-min refused the traffic police's offer to help temporarily redirect traffic, suggesting they let them go first, and dutifully followed the traffic flow, waiting patiently. Only when the traffic cleared completely did he continue to drive forward, keeping at a low speed, barely quicker than a standard electric vehicle, moving at a turtle's pace. When they finally arrived at the Samsung headquarters building, more than half an hour had passed. The area around the Samsung headquarters building was deserted, with no other police officers around. It was evident that Park Chong-min was among the first group of police to arrive. Asaba, we came too early. How capable are those bastards of delaying things? Park Chong-min felt a bit defeated. He didn't expect, despite being so slow, his colleagues delayed even more, thus making him the one to take the lead. But now, with the enforcement recorder on, he could only brace himself and, with Cui Huimin, get out of the police car. As they stepped onto the plaza in front of the building, the sight of numerous fragmented corpses lying scattered filled their view. The dry blood was like a chaotic red graffiti, turning this place into a hellish scene. Vomiting. Cui Huimin's complexion changed drastically, bending over and vomiting until she was empty, seemingly vomiting out even bile. The scene was too horrific, with bodies cut in half, torn by machine guns, burnt to a crisp by fire, emitting a scent of roasted meat. Numerous bodies lay helter-skelter around the plaza. A shocking scene for a newcomer, freshly graduated from police academy, was too overwhelming. At this moment, Cui Huimin finally understood Park Chong-min's painstaking efforts. The bodies on the plaza were all wearing police uniforms, indicating that her seniors had faced an unprecedented massacre against the genetic warriors. If they had hurried, had a confrontation with the genetic warriors. Thinking of this, a shiver ran through Cui Huimin, as intense fear coursed through her. Park Chong-min also wore a ghastly expression, his stomach churning, barely holding back the urge to vomit. He gestured to Cui Huimin, then cautiously approached the Samsung headquarters building, because he knew the genetic warriors must have already left. The dried blood on the bodies suggested they had been dead for some time, making it impossible for the genetic warriors to still be there. Coming to the entrance of the Samsung headquarters building, above, a human head was impaled onto a steel beam. It's Lee Rongzai, the chairman of the Samsung Group. Park Chong-min drew a sharp breath. As a South Korean, he naturally recognized Lee Rongzai, the head of the Samsung conglomerate, appearing on news more frequently than the president. The genetic warriors truly have no scruples. Cui Huimin, seeing Lee Rongzai's head, felt her scalp tingle. This was a major figure beyond her reach, yet ended so tragically here, with even his head used as a warning exhibit. At this moment, Cui Huimin had a clear understanding of the dominance and power of the JECA Group. Go inside. Park Chong-min entered the building, to find more corpses, all without exception belonging to the Samsung Lee family, and many remaining survivors. Police, are you the police? Damn it, you bunch of useless people. Why did you arrive so late? How do the police even work? Boo-hoo. Those demons should be gone by now. Please get me out quickly. The survivors on site were hiding here, too afraid to go out. Only after seeing the police did they finally realize the genetic warriors had left, and they approached the police one after another. More and more police forces arrived to handle the aftermath, transporting bodies, cleaning up the scene, and assisting the wounded. But proposing to pursue the genetic warriors was something no one brought up, or if they did, no one dared to act on it. Genetic warriors were not something their police could deal with, and everyone silently chose to ignore them. If there had to be action, it would be up to the military to confront them. South Korea, Seoul Special City Longshan Base, the headquarters of the beautiful country's stationed forces in South Korea. What? Genetic warriors attacked the Samsung headquarters building in Seoul. When commander of stationed in South Korea Spencer Howard heard the news, he couldn't believe it at first, then became furious. It's said that you have to look at the owner when hitting a dog, and everyone knows South Korea is just a dog for beautiful country. JECA Group brazenly targeting Samsung conglomerates. Lee family clearly showed no respect for beautiful country. Beautiful country had tens of thousands of troops stationed in South Korea, and now a few genetic warriors were causing trouble right under his nose. As the commanding officer here and the joint commander of the South Korea-US alliance, overseeing South Korea's wartime military command, this incident was unquestionably a slap in his face. If JECA Group had secretly conducted an assassination, he might have let it go. But they brazenly sent out genetic warriors to launch a full-scale assault on Samsung conglomerate, wiping out the Lee family's main force and causing the death of many important figures. This kind of blatant attack barely concealed anything. It was clearly an armed demonstration. Just like when beautiful country dispatched carrier strike groups for joint naval exercises, the purpose was to flex their muscles to the outside world. Have the whereabouts of the 3 genetic warriors been confirmed now? Howard asked the aide with a frown. According to reports from South Korea, after the 3 genetic warriors completed their attack, they left by car. By now, they have likely changed their appearance and are hiding within Seoul City. Their police did not track and search in time, leading to a very passive situation now. The aide explained, leaving Howard's face darkened with frustration. These useless people, can't rely on them a bit. Pass my order to impose martial law on Seoul. Seal off the Gangnam district of South Korea. Order all military camps to raise the alert level to level 3. Deploy the 8th Army Group, the 2nd Infantry Division from the Dragon Head Base, the 1st Heavy Combat Brigade, the 210 Fire Brigade, and the 45th Combat Aviation Brigade to encircle the genetic warriors in Seoul. Also, have the Yushin Air Force Base deploy fighter jets to patrol and stand by, ready to strike the enemy. Today, I want to ensure they can't escape. Howard's eyes were fierce, reminding them that South Korea is a place where their military doesn't have to hold back. Even if they deployed heavy weapons in Seoul, it wouldn't matter, as it wasn't their own country. The South Korean government wouldn't dare to say a word after the fact. Is it necessary to go this far? Shouldn't we consult back home first? The chief of staff hesitated, not because he was worried about dealing with a few genetic warriors. After all, they were on their own turf here. No matter how strong the genetic warriors were in urban warfare, their numbers were limited. As long as they didn't hold back and used heavy firepower to bombard relentlessly, they could handle it. The chief of staff was worried about the implications of what the genetic warriors represented. This opponent wasn't an ordinary force. It was the elite genetic warriors from JECA Group. Who knows what reaction might occur if they act rashly? They've already provoked us right in front of our eyes. We'll be a laughingstock worldwide if we don't react. Howard waved his hand decisively, saying, "Execute my order, and I'll explain things back home." The chief of staff shrugged and turned to relay the order, and soon, air raid sirens started blaring throughout Seoul. Many citizens in Seoul were bewildered as they saw fighter jets streak across the sky, appearing over the city. 3 beautiful country military units began approaching Seoul from all directions, and even South Korea's domestic forces were mobilized. All exit checkpoints in the city of Seoul were tightly sealed. Major countries around the world received the news and turned their focus to this tiny place in South Korea. Howard personally took command, following the 2nd Infantry Division to the front lines. Let's cut JECA Group down to size today and send the troops into the city. Howard sat in an armored command vehicle, a massive steel convoy before and behind him, with a large number of armed helicopters flying low overhead. Many beautiful country infantry arrived in armored transport and trucks, preparing to enter Seoul. But just as Howard was about to start the encirclement of the genetic warriors, a transoceanic call came to his armored command vehicle from Beautiful Country. When he saw the caller, Howard's expression immediately changed subtly because the caller was President Jesman of the Beautiful Country. "Howard, are you an idiot? Who gave you the unilateral authority to deploy troops? Do you want to provoke a war with Jekka Group and ignite hostilities between the two countries? Listen, I don't care what you're doing now. Immediately cancel all military actions in South Korea and bring the troops back to the base." As soon as the phone was connected, Jesman's angry shout came through, berating him mercilessly. "Mr. President, I am carrying out the mission entrusted to me by the country. The Jekka Group is too arrogant, having murdered key members of the Lee family of the Samsung Group in Seoul. If we don't respond, they will only become more rampant in the future, treating us like a soft target." Howard felt extremely wronged, desperately explaining his motive for deploying troops. "This matter doesn't require you to consider it. What you need to do now is follow my orders. As the president of the Beautiful Country, I command you to withdraw the troops. Did you understand? If not, I will immediately remove you from your position as commander of stationed in South Korea and replace you with someone who can follow orders." When Jesman heard Howard still argue, he became even more furious, directly issuing a threat over the phone. "Yes, I understand. I will have the troops retreat immediately." Howard could no longer maintain his defiance, expressing his willingness to follow the president's orders. After hanging up, Howard, with a gloomy face, could no longer control his anger, delivering a hard kick to the thick armor of the armored command vehicle, cursing, "Fake! These cowards, deserters, and weaklings only know how to engage in appeasement policies. Sooner or later, the Jekka Group will ride over our beautiful country and act arrogantly." Howard was furious. Just as he was about to capture the genetic warriors of the Jekka Group, a domestic order ruined all his plans. He knew there were two forces within the Beautiful Country regarding whether to go to war with the Jekka Group: the radicals who advocated for war and the conservatives who advocated for restraining and weakening the Jekka Group, and clearly Jesman belonged to the conservative side. Even if the biological batteries produced by the Jekka Group threatened the Beautiful Country's oil dollar hegemony, and even if the Jekka Group sent genetic warriors to stir trouble in the capital of a small sibling nation, the conservatives still thought of compromise, tolerating humiliation, and did not want to take the step to war. Though seething with hatred internally, Howard could only rage powerlessly for a while but ultimately carried out President Jesman's orders honestly under domestic high-level pressure. "Issue the order. All units turn around in place and return to the camp." Thus, an anticlimactic military operation ended without a hitch. Massacre by genetic warriors, Lee Rongzai beheaded, several key figures of the Lee family killed. The South Korea Samsung conglomerate becomes history. The atrocities of the Jekka Group have sparked public outrage. They completely ignored international law, assassinating and attacking the top management of a large multinational company without permission as the overlord of Southeast Asia. This vile act has doomed the Jekka Group as a terrorist force that won't last long. The Jekka Group once again used mud truck business warfare, causing numerous innocent casualties. The Jekka Group must apologize and compensate for their actions. The enmity between the Jekka Group and the Samsung Group, surprisingly, originated from a small smuggling business. The Samsung Group is in turmoil, with multiple companies issuing acquisition proposals to the Samsung Group. This commercial giant of South Korea is on the verge of its end. The next day, the major events in Seoul, South Korea, were extensively covered by global media. All of a sudden, there was a wave of condemnation of the Jekka Group from all over the world. Because the Jekka Group acted too blatantly this time in the past, they would disguise it even when killing those in the pharmaceutical groups. Now it was a public attack, causing many companies and dignitaries to be cautious and afraid, as the tide of public opinion surged towards the Jekka Group like a tsunami. The Samsung Group is the largest conglomerate in South Korea, yet the Jekka Group directly deployed genetic warriors to execute a decapitation tactic on the Lee family, the controllers of the Samsung Group. For many businessmen, this level of business warfare was somewhat excessive. In terms of the entire Blue Star, Not many companies dared to say they could withstand such high-end business warfare from the Jekka Group. When eliminating competitors from the physical level doesn't solve the problem, they eliminate the people who raised the issue, who wouldn't feel scared by such precise and effective business warfare. Indeed, after the attack on the South Korea Samsung Group by the Jekka Group, the once suppressed smuggling business of the Jekka Group quickly revived, and this time no one dared to specifically target such smuggling activities. Besides, the misfortune of the Samsung Group made, apart from the Jekka Group demonstrating through this move, many small and large South Korean companies very happy. The sudden death of many high-level Samsung Group executives plunged the entire group into leaderless chaos, attracting bites from many greedy wolves, and many of its industrial companies were split and acquired. The collapse of this largest South Korean conglomerate left a gap in the market that fed many South Korean companies. To some extent, due to the downfall of the Samsung Group, without this conglomerate's monopoly in various industries, many startup companies were able to develop, making the commercial atmosphere in South Korea more vibrant, which was a blessing in disguise in a way. However, the Jekka Group didn't care about this point, just like the negative public opinion against the Jekka Group worldwide, which the Jekka Group also didn't care about much. After all, as long as their solid foundation of powerful military force and the support of the people in their territory remained with the Jekka Group, they could rest easy. No matter how much the external public opinion criticized, it could not affect the Jekka Group too much. Just like the beautiful country, they have always been entangled in negative public opinion, frequently inciting wars, overthrowing regimes, engaging in ethnic cleansing, racial segregation, and so on. Even washing powder can be said to be a weapon of mass destruction. But this still does not affect the beautiful country being the Blue Star Dominator, the most powerful country globally, with a bunch of little brother states following behind, and its aircraft carrier battle groups arrogantly crossing the major oceans across the world. These were not obtained by the beautiful country through gentleness and humility, but by strong military, financial, and technological hegemony. While the outside world is still abuzz because of the South Korea turmoil, in the Chon country at an underground training base in Monday City Steel Camp, Soo Jia looked down at the intelligence in hand. This was a summary of the actions of the genetic warriors in South Korea as well as subsequent intelligence records. Suddenly, footsteps were heard from outside the door. A tall man with a stern and cold face walked in. It was Situong, who had just completed his mission in South Korea and returned not long ago. Report, President Soo, Steel Camp 3rd Company Commander Situong greets you. Loyalty. Seeing Soo Jia, his idol and god, Situong's eyes were excited, and he stood at attention to salute. Soo Jia raised his head, put down the intelligence in hand, and wore a genial smile. Situong, you did very well this time. I just discussed with your superior. In light of your performance, you will be promoted to the position of Steel Camp 4th Battalion Commander. I hope you will continue to forge ahead and become the pride of our Jekka Group. Though it was still called Steel Camp, in reality the number had long surpassed the battalion level and could be called the Steel Group. Being able to become a battalion commander in Steel Camp meant that Situong had entered the rank of senior military officers in the Jekka Group. After all, Steel Camp is very special, with each member being a force against thousands, powerful beyond words. The genetic warriors of Steel Camp, when encountering other brother troops outside, except for the mechanical brigade with the Spider main battle mecha, seeing officials big 3 ranks higher would not be an exaggeration. Yes, President Soo, I will continue to sharpen and advance, dedicated to sacrificing for the Jekka Group and never let President Soo down. Situong was even more excited. Now, even if Soo Jia asked him to execute a mission that was sure to lead to death, he would do so without hesitation. Soo Jia walked up to Situong and said, I have another important mission here, consider it. You are a suitable candidate, but since you have just returned from a mission in South Korea, if you wish to rest, I can arrange for someone else to execute it. As soon as Soo Jia finished speaking, he saw Situong's face turn stern, his voice loud, and said without hesitation, Please, President Soo, be sure to choose me. I am not afraid of hardship nor fatigue. Whether it's a mountain of knives or a sea of flames ahead, I will unconditionally complete the task. Situong's words were incredibly sincere. He was born to a poor family in the Chan country. Before the Jekka group arrived, his family was so poor that even rats would cry when they went in. But the arrival of Jekka group changed his family. Now his parents are raising insects for the Jekka group. His sister got admitted to university, and several of his older brothers and sisters have bright futures, working in Jekka Group's subsidiaries. He is extremely grateful to Jekka Group and grateful to Su Jie for the changes brought to their family. So after hearing Su Jie's words, his belief was so firm. Resting can be done at any time, but executing a task personally assigned by President Su and shining for him cannot be done just any time. People like Situong are commonplace in Steel Camp. After all, being able to join Steel Camp requires political vetting, not only physically adaptable to the gene potion but also loyal enough to the Jekka Group, especially to Su Jie. Only soldiers who are fanatically devoted to Su Jie can become part of Steel Camp, becoming a hero. With a satisfied smile, Su Jie patted Situong on the shoulder. Since that's the case, go back and learn the language and customs of the Middle East. Your target location for this mission is there. Situong, his spirit jolted, immediately understood who Su Jie wanted to take action against. President Su, is it to act against those Yutai? Su Jie chuckled and said, they dare to instruct the South Korea Samsung Group to mess with us. So we must respond, right? They all say Yutai is the strongest force in the world, but I want to see if they are really that strong. If the beautiful country is constantly compromising with Jekka Group, then under Su Jie's leadership, the Jekka Group is like a honey badger, ready to challenge anyone dissatisfied, and coincidentally, the Jekka Group has the powerful military support to do so. Understood. I will resolutely complete the mission. Situong saluted again, sharing the same hostility and animosity. Daring to mess with the Jekka Group and insult his belief, in Situong's eyes, this enemy was already on its path to death. Go find Miao Luan. He will arrange your actions. Su Jie watched Situong leave, then turned around and looked at a world map hanging on the wall, with a bloodthirsty smile on the corner of his mouth. Yutai descendant. He. So ignorant. If Cece can do it, why can't I? Su Jie? Underground poisonous insect base. Su Jie sat alone cross-legged on the ground. In front of him, there was a lake full of blood. Calling it a lake is not an exaggeration, given the sheer volume of blood contributed by billions of people worldwide. The blood lake was surrounded by array plates, ensuring the vitality of the blood. The Jekka Group spends a large amount of money every year to procure blood from all over the world, which has aided Su Jie's cultivation of the Blood Sea devouring sky demon skill. This blood lake is the accumulation of blood procured from Blue Star, while Su Jie was journeying to Tianyuan World. The Jekka Group did not stop procuring blood due to Su Jie's departure. Instead, they increased the procurement volume since as the Blood Sea devouring sky demon skill progresses, it requires more blood for cultivation. Blood Sea. Su Jie performed a spell with his hands, and water tornadoes formed from the blood lake in front of him. The large volumes of blood turned the tornadoes crimson, making them appear more eerie and terrifying. However, in Su Jie's eyes, these were simply resources for his cultivation. Water tornadoes swirled around Su Jie, transforming into roaring blood-colored giant dragons that absorbed and expelled breath around him, enveloping him in a sea of blood energy. Su Jie absorbed the special energy from the blood, and his internal momentum grew more intense. 3 days later, as Su Jie rose to his full height, the blood lake before him had completely dried up, and Su Jie's Blood Sea devouring sky demon skill had progressed naturally, breaking through to the 9th level. Carefully contemplating the changes in his body, Su Jie opened his left palm, allowing a drop of blood to seep from his fingertip. The blood was incredibly bright, like pure red agate, with no trace of a bloody smell but a faint medicinal fragrance. My cultivation of the 9th level of the Blood Sea devouring sky demon skill must appear like Tang Monk's flesh, a human elixir to those demons. Su Jie chuckled softly to himself. Because of the purity of the holy blood within him, Su Jie's cultivation also advanced, allowing him to touch the threshold of the Taoist platform realm 5th layer. It's worth noting that Su Jie had only recently advanced to the Dao platform realm 4th level. and such a rapid advancement would shake the entire Daily dynasty if word got out. The drop of blood on his fingertip fell silently, melting directly into the cement ground, corroding a 3-meter pit as steaming heat and blood light surged forth. Upon contact with the soil beneath, the drop of blood seemed to gain independent life, merging with earth and rubble to grow into a 4 to 5 meter tall blood-colored giant. Of course, it merely had a humanoid outline, with 5 hands, 8 eyes, and wrinkled skin. Bone spurs as sharp as blades jutted out, forming a monstrous figure that would send chills down one's spine at first sight. This was the blood demon crystallized from Su Jie's blood. Su Jie raised a finger, prompting the blood demon into action, launching like a projectile to strike the wall. This secret base was custom-built by Su Jie, with all walls made from high-strength special military cement, rendering them extremely durable. Nevertheless, walls created from such high-grade special military cement couldn't withstand the blood demon's rampage. Bang! With a dull thud, the blood demon's fist plunged into the wall, leaving web-like indentations and cracks. Boom, boom, boom. The blood demon destroyed at will, and in an instant, hundreds of square meters of walls were shattered as though bombarded by large-caliber artillery repeatedly. Fist and foot injuries on the blood demon leaked blood that sizzled and corroded the ground, creating various-sized craters. Su Jie flicked his fingers, and an invisible strong wind turned into a blade, slicing the blood demon's upper body vertically in half, splitting it from the forehead down to the waist, revealing the writhing flesh inside. The blood demon did not die. Instead, its body was like clay, joining back together swiftly. Though only a transformation from a small, insignificant drop of Su Jie's holy blood, the blood demon possessed a certain degree of undying characteristic. However, it lacked the extravagant level of Su Jie's main body. As long as the blood sea is unending, Su Jie is indestructible. Lacking in intelligence but with this fusion and transformation capability, if diluted, it might barely be assimilated by the human body. With a wave of Su Jie's hand, the blood demon dispersed like wind, reverting to a translucent, crimson holy blood drop, flying back into Su Jie's palm, merging into his body. Su Jie turned and walked out of the underground poisonous insect space, heading to a secret biological laboratory. There, a large group of scientists recruited by the Jekka group awaited him. Also arranged to wait here were death row inmates sent from various prisons, all scumbags guilty of heinous crimes. Additionally, there were some Japanese soldier prisoners. Since Japan was unwilling to pay for their release, they became expendable resources in the hands of the Jekka group. These individuals would contribute their final strength here, providing sufficient data support for the upcoming experiments. Begin! As Su Jie and the scientists entered the laboratory, everyone became absorbed in the experiments. While Su Jie was immersed in experiments, the outside world was hardly calm. In New York, after hearing about the massacre of the Lee family of the Samsung Group by genetic warriors, many Jewish people could not sit still. Among them was Butler Isaga, the initiator of this operation, a Wall Street financial mogul who was even more restless. He directly utilized his presidential status at the Beautiful Country and Jewish Country Public Affairs Committee to hold a secret meeting in New York. When the meeting commenced, those present were all influential figures in the Beautiful Country. Some were renowned directors and actors. Others were presidents of entertainment companies, capable of wielding immense power in Hollywood. There were media moguls whose control over media outlets could make people tremble in fear. Some were rising stars from the internet industry, with multinational companies under their belt, possessing vast user bases that could even sway election support rates in the Beautiful Country. Without exception, they were all of Jewish descent, and even among them, they were elites from various sectors, holding significant positions in their industries, wielding vast amounts of resources and capital. In fact, membership in the Joint Public Affairs Committee of the Beautiful Country and Utah Country is meticulously selected, requiring multiple rigorous inspections. Ordinary people of Jewish descent have no right to enter this organization, which already encompasses the majority of Jewish elites in the Beautiful Country. In the conference room, Isaac, as the president, spoke first. "Gentlemen, the current situation is very unfavorable for us. You've all heard about the Samsung Lee family incident, haven't you? The Jekka Group dispatched genetic warriors to take action. Now, our role as the mastermind behind the scenes isn't likely to be a secret to Jekka Group. An oppressive silence filled the room. Even these influential figures who could command the wind and rain in the outside world couldn't help but shiver slightly when they heard the name of the Jekka Group. Many looked visibly worried. Isaac, you've been somewhat careless. I say, we shouldn't have provoked the Jekka Group in the first place. How are we supposed to wrap up this situation now? Breaking the silence, a man named Elliot Ewan Francis spoke. He was the founder of a globally recognized social networking site, a rising star of the internet in the new century, and ranked 5th on the world's billionaire list with a personal fortune of $200 billion. Even among the Jewish members present, his status was one of the highest. After Francis spoke, others began to chime in. The Jekka Group has employed a decapitation tactic. Given their operational style, they might very well target us next. We shouldn't have gotten involved in this messy situation. We haven't gained any benefits and now stand in opposition to the Jekka Group. Are you all fools? The Jekka Group's moves have eaten into so much of our pie. Those biological batteries have cost us a fortune, and various Jekka Group products have long heavily impacted our market. Should we just sit idly by? It was originally an issue for the beautiful country, but now it's become a conflict between us and the Jekka Group. What's going on here? The beautiful country is also our country. The interests eroded by the Jekka Group sweep across the globe. We just happen to be at the forefront of opposing the Jekka Group, but we won't be the last. Complaints and quarrels filled the room. The ruthless tactics of the Jekka Group truly frightened these high-ranking Utah elites, accustomed as they were to a certain lifestyle of luxury. We all agreed initially on taking action against the Jekka Group. Complaining and regretting here isn't going to solve anything. Will regret make the Jekka Group stop? We gathered everyone to come up with strategies, not to hold a pity party. Isaac pounded the table forcefully, interrupting the ongoing quarrel. The room quieted down significantly. Francis squinted and asked, Isaac, if you have any ideas, feel free to say them. Others also turned their attention to Isaac, the president, a Wall Street financial mogul with vast financial capital under his control. Given his ties to Utah country, he's the representative figure for the Utah in the beautiful country. What I want to say is that we've already provoked the Jekka Group, and now we have no way out unless we voluntarily surrender to them, which is impossible. Isaac cleared his throat, setting the tone for the matter. Easier said than done. The genetic warriors' decapitation tactics are terrifying. I say surrendering might not be. Someone muttered softly. Among the Jewish elite present, most were businessmen and capitalists. For businessmen, peace is paramount, and the inherent weakness of the capitalist class makes them prone to capitulation when faced with power. Nonsense, Isaac retorted coldly, interrupting the speaker, his expression fierce. Have you forgotten the lessons of history? Why did we wander for millennia back then? Because some of us were too weak. Now, we've finally attained our current status and have our own country. If we surrender to the Jekka Group, what does that mean? It tells others that we are weak and can be easily bullied, that we can be readily exploited. Today, if we surrender to the Jekka Group, tomorrow, when other forces demand we surrender, should we continue surrendering? One thing leads to another. Setting a precedent will result in unimaginable consequences. Does everyone want to repeat the past, allowing those countries to recall their historical animosities with us? Isaac's words were sharp and heavy, causing many of the Jewish listeners to break out in cold sweat. Indeed, Utah have risen now. They are accustomed to comfortable living and have been revered for so long, almost forgetting the past struggles of a life filled with suffering. The Jewish endured a millennium of wandering, constantly persecuted and plundered by other countries. Even in the deeply rooted settings of Europe and America, the countries there, each more or less, have launched various levels of exclusionary actions against the Jewish in the past. Discrimination, insults, oppression, and slaughter were commonplace. The Crusaders' plunders and massacres of the Jewish, the late 15th century complete expulsion from the bullfighting country, the multiple rampant anti-Jewish movements by the emperor in the 19th and 20th centuries, and the anti-Jewish vanguard, Hiera of the 30s and 40s of the last century, took this movement to its peak. At that time, the Jewish were seen by many countries as nothing more than fat sheep, slaughtered for steady profit. Thinking of this, if they reveal their weaknesses, perhaps the Jewish will once again become easy pickings for other countries, ready to be plundered at will. But what about the genetic warriors of the Jekka group? Francis, frowning, acknowledged the reasoning in Isaac's words. But the threat from the Jekka group was evident and something everyone needed to address. There's only one way. Get the Jekka group embroiled in war so that they have no time to care about us. Or perhaps destroy the Jekka group completely. We need to incite other countries to join the war against the Jekka group, especially the beautiful country. If the beautiful country steps in and truly wages war against the Jekka group, not only will our safety be secured, but we can also use the beautiful country's power to eliminate the Jekka group and seize the abundant spoils left in its aftermath. Isaac paused at this point and continued. Of course, before success, considering the threat of the genetic warriors, we can temporarily seek refuge in Yutai country. I've already spoken with the high-ranking officials in Yutai country. They'll dispatch troops to protect us. Over there, we're all brothers and sisters. If the Jekka group sends genetic warriors, they won't be able to hide their yellow faces, and our safety will be assured.
Inciting war.
That's very challenging, but I said I would, and I'll have my companies get involved. Francis was already somewhat moved. His control over social media could stir public sentiment, playing a role in fanning the flames. Although knowing it's very challenging and that other countries being involved wouldn't really matter, nor would they dare. Only the beautiful country, as the Blue Star dominator, could effectively strike and even destroy the Jekka group. Just as well, their influence among the Yutai in the beautiful country is significant, and this remains a possibility, especially now that the Jekka group has launched the biological battery, threatening the beautiful country's oil dollar hegemony. I'm willing. I'll talk to familiar officials to lobby. If it's about funding, I can provide up to $1 billion. Jewish elites present exchanged glances, collectively acknowledging this proposal. It was indeed an effective suggestion. As long as the beautiful country steps in and shifts the conflict elsewhere, the Jewish can watch the beautiful country as it engages in battle, then step in after the war to take the prize. Because this is our war with Jekka group, and God will protect us Yutai. Victory belongs to the great Yutai nation. Isaac slammed the table, interrupting the disputes in the room. The room fell much quieter. Francis narrowed his eyes, asking, Isaac, don't hesitate to share your thoughts. Others turned their gaze towards President Isaac. As a Wall Street tycoon, he holds enormous financial power and, coupled with his connections in Yutai country, represents the Yutai in the beautiful country. What I want to say is, considering we've already crossed the Rubicon with Jekka Group, we have no retreat unless we willingly surrender to Jekka Group. But that's out of the question. Isaac cleared his throat, first setting the nature of the issue. Easy for you to say, but with the devastation caused by the genetic warriors' decapitation tactics, I think surrendering might not be. Someone muttered under their breath. Most of the Jewish elites present were businesspeople and capitalists, who typically value harmony and due to their class's inherent weakness tend to easily yield to force. Nonsense! Isaac scoffed coldly, cutting him off, his brows furrowed with severity. Have you forgotten the lessons of history? Why did we wander for 1,000 years? It's because some of us were too weak. Now that we have finally achieved our current status and have our own nation, if we surrender to the Jekka Group, what does that imply? It implies to others that we Yutai are weak and can be easily exploited. If today we surrender to the Jekka Group, tomorrow, when other powers demand our surrender, will we continue to submit to their will? Once it starts, it continues. Setting such a precedent can have unimaginable consequences. Do we really want to repeat the mistakes of the past and remind those nations of their historic animosities towards us? Isaac's words were sharp, and his tone grave, causing many of the Jewish present to break out in cold sweat. Indeed, now the Yutai has truly risen. They have been living a privileged life for so long, spoiled by the flattery of others, that they've almost forgotten the past hardships they endured. For millennia, the Jewish people wandered, facing ostracism and plundering by other nations. Even in the societies where the Jewish are now most deeply rooted in Europe and America, every country there, without exception, has in the past engaged in exclusionary activities against the Jewish community, discriminatorily, insultingly, oppressively, and slaughteringly. From the Crusaders' plunder and massacre of the Jewish, to the wholesale expulsion by the bullfighting country at the end of the 15th century, and the repeated anti-Jewish waves by the emperor in the 19th and 20th centuries, and the anti-Jewish vanguard, the Hiera of the 30s and 40s. At that time, in the eyes of those states, the Jewish were nothing more than fat sheep, butchered for fat profits. Upon reflection, if they exposed their weaknesses, the Jewish community might again face the specters of expulsion. But what about the genetic warriors from the Jekka group? Francis frowned, acknowledging the reasoning in Isaac's words, but was apprehensive about the threat from the Jekka group, which was becoming palpable to everyone. There's only one solution: embroil the Jekka group in warfare, so they have no time for us. Alternatively, we could get the beautiful country involved, and if they go to war with Jekka group, not only will we ensure our safety, we might even resolve things using the hands of the beautiful country. Francis felt somewhat moved already. He assured them that he would have his companies participate. "I'm committed, and I'm willing to have my companies join in." The Jewish elites exchanged glances, collectively acknowledging this proposal. It was indeed viewed as an effective suggestion. As long as the beautiful country participates, tensions will shift, allowing the Jewish community to observe the beautiful country in the heat of battle and positioning themselves for post-war gains. Because this is our war with Jekka group, and God will bless us Utai, victory belongs to the great Jewish people. After expressing their loyalty to God and agreeing on the next course of action, many Jewish elites listened intently, breaking out in cold sweat. Indeed, the Jewish people have risen, accustomed to comfortable lives and being flattered. They almost forgot the previous hardships faced by their ancestors. For thousands of years, the Jewish people wandered, continuously facing exclusion and plundering from other nations. Even in the deeply rooted Europe and America society of the present day, each country has, in one form or another, engaged in exclusionary activities against Utai in the past, with discrimination, insults, oppression, and massacres being all too common. From the Crusaders' looting and massacres of the Jewish to the comprehensive expulsion of the Jewish from the bullfighting country in the late 15th century, and the rampant anti-Jewish waves by the emperor in the 19th and 20th centuries. Likewise, the anti-Jewish vanguard in the 30s and 40s of the previous century, especially in the context of the oil dollar hegemony now threatened by the Jekka group's launch of biological batteries. Just the thought of it, if they reveal their own weakness, the Jewish might once again become a target for exploitation and repression. But what about the genetic warriors of Jekka group? Francis frowned again, acknowledging the threat that was visibly concerning to many of the Jewish elites present. Only one solution remains: to drag the Jekka group into a conflict so they're too occupied to bother us, or better yet, resolve the issue through the beautiful country's intervention. Francis was slightly tempted by now, considering that other countries might be reluctant or ineffective. Only the Blue Star Dominator, the beautiful country, could effectively combat and potentially eliminate the Jekka group, especially now that their biological battery poses a threat to the beautiful country's oil dollar hegemony. "I'm willing to have my companies involved." Those present exchanged looks, agreeing on the proposal and signifying their consensus for the upcoming endeavors. They gathered to express their loyalty to God and consolidate a consensus on the actions to be taken. Indeed, many Jewish elites present broke out in cold sweat while listening. Now, the Jewish have truly risen. Used to living in luxury and being praised for a long time, they nearly forgot the past life of destitution and suffering. For millennia, the Jewish community dodged away from home, facing persecution and robbery by other nations. Even in contemporary Europe and America, places where the Jewish are most deeply rooted, every country has, to some degree, engaged in anti-Jewish events in the past. Continuous discrimination, insults, oppression, and even massacres happened frequently. From the Crusaders' plundering and massacres of the Jewish, to the bullfighting country's complete expulsion of Jewish descendants in the late 15th century, to the recurrent anti-Jewish waves unleashed by the emperor throughout the 19th and 20th centuries. Also, the anti-Jewish vanguards during the 30s and 40s of the last century, when the Jewish community was seen as a cash cow to be fatted for slaughter by many countries. Considering this, showing any weakness might make the Jewish susceptible to open persecution again. A week passed in the blink of an eye. Liu Yingying carried a thermos box containing homemade meals and arrived at a biological research center located in the south suburb of Monday City. Here, there were guards every 10 steps and sentries every 5, with extremely strict security, with hidden posts and patrol squads with police dogs visible everywhere. There was also comprehensive monitoring with no blind spots, requiring multiple rigorous inspections to enter and exit. Liu Yingying arrived at the central test building and pressed the elevator button. The elevator did not go up. Instead, it began descending. When the elevator doors reopened, Liu Yingying had already reached a place over 100 meters underground. This area was transformed into a large research center, with pristine walls, numerous sophisticated instruments, and researchers in white lab coats bustling around, all indicating the uniqueness of this place. It wasn't Liu Yingying's first visit here. She skillfully passed through the disinfection station and arrived at a room lined with thick steel pillars, which looked more like a steel cage. There were several researchers in white lab coats, and Su Jie was among them. Time to eat. Liu Yingying tiptoed behind Su Jie, raising the thermos box in her hand. Please wait, we are about to start the experiment. Su Jie shook his head and pointed into the room. Following Su Jie's direction, Liu Yingying saw a deformed creature lying within the cage made of steel pillars. It was nearly 4 meters tall, with shriveled and pale skin, limbs twisted unnaturally, additional nodules at the joints, and fingers long and sharp like steel blades. Experiment number 341 commences. Subject number 12, Chongdao Jinshi, Japanese nationality, original height 168 centimeters. Weight. Recording data now. Release the subject from anesthesia. Su Jie gave the command, holding a record sheet with a typical photo of a Japanese person, the source of the monster inside the prison. It's hard to believe how an ordinary person transformed into this 4-meter-tall deformed monster. If a Ghost Ridge Palace disciple were here, they would find the deformed monster before them quite similar to the alien ghosts roaming the mountains and forests. Or rather, it was based on this that Su Jie conducted his modification experiments. Received. Begin awakening the subject. A robotic arm extended from the ceiling, pried open the deformed monster's mouth, and the syringe found the tongue between its snarling sharp teeth, injecting the potion into it. Within just a few minutes, the deformed monster began to move. A pair of scarlet, vertical pupils opened, like 2 blazing balls of charcoal. The malice and ferocity in its eyes sent chills down one's spine. It let out a low growl from its throat, its mouth full of sharp teeth trembling slightly. The next moment, this monster quickly assumed a battle stance, using both its hands and feet, charging towards the observers like a bloodthirsty and ferocious beast. The thick metal pillars blocked this deformed monster. Its strength was incredibly domineering, its claws scratching deep marks, causing the prison to shake violently. Roar! 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 The deformed monster was enraged, but unfortunately, the ground and the ceiling were constructed of sturdy alloy, forming a metal cage specially designed for it. No matter how it tried to destroy it, it couldn't break out. The impotent and furious deformed monster had a bloodthirsty instinct, attacking everything around it madly, leaving numerous destruction marks on the metal plates, tearing the steel and leaving deep depressions, effortlessly damaging steel that even an elephant's collision couldn't dent. The cattle, sheep, and pigs placed inside the prison were instantly dismembered before it, and the smell of blood filled the air. Initiate trauma experiment. Su Jie continued to instruct, the alloy steel plates of the prison opening small windows, gun barrels extending in to aim at the deformed monster, firing a hail of bullets. Ordinary handgun bullets couldn't harm this monster. Even rifle bullets only penetrated its skin, getting lodged in the muscles, merely injuring it. Switching to 12.7 millimeters bullets, the large-caliber heavy machine gun finally posed a deadly threat. The deformed monster could no longer withstand it, letting out a wail as its body was blasted with bloody holes. Yet even so, this deformed monster was still struggling. Even with its heart pierced, it maintained a vigorous life force, with tiny clusters of meat buds sprouting from its wounds to repair, and its dripping blood, carrying corrosiveness, melted beehive-like pits in the steel plate beneath. This level of defense is just from modifying an ordinary person. If it was a genetic warrior with an increased dose, combined with the second-generation biological armor, and their own strong self-healing ability, it would be perfect. Su Jie silently noted in his mind, watching the constantly struggling monster, its throat continually roaring. It's a pity it lacks much rationality, but this is just the result of modifying an ordinary person. If it were a genetic warrior, their brain's rationality wouldn't be an issue, with more experiments to ensure nothing goes wrong. Su Jie had his answer and then waved his hand. Sedate and detain subject number 12. Send him back to the cultivation chamber. Yes, Supreme Leader. Inside the prison, the deformed monster, bombarded by machine guns and left barely alive, lay on the ground, watching the descending anesthetic gas overhead. The anesthetic gas was something even an elephant couldn't resist for a few seconds. The deformed monster struggled for half a minute before finally succumbing to the anesthetic coma. Subsequently, staff opened the prison to go in and inspect the deformed monster's recorded data, evaluating the weapon's destructive impact and the self-healing effect. After completing all this, the monster was lifted by a forklift and transported to a nearby large biological workshop. The workshop here opens, rows of bright lights on the ceiling illuminate the surroundings, and what meets the eye is a series of huge transparent culture tanks. The tanks are filled with green nutrient solution, each containing deformed, grotesque monsters, like biological specimens, but upon close inspection, one can see their hearts are beating, all are alive. The bottom of each culture tank records various data about these monsters, simultaneously monitoring their state. And there are hundreds of such tanks here. Lu Yingying, who followed Su Jie in for a tour, hugged Su Jie's arm tightly and complained, "Even though it's not my first time here, it still creeps me out. Makes me feel like we're some kind of evil scientists." The scene before her reminded Lu Yingying of a zombie movie she had watched previously. If the outside world knew that the Jekka group was conducting such human genetic biological experiments, it would have caused a huge uproar. However, these test subjects were heinous criminals in life, and Lu Yingying doesn't sympathize with them, just feels physically uncomfortable. Su Jie shook his head with a smile and said, "No, no. We're exploring the possibilities of human evolution. How could we be evil scientists?" That makes it sound even more evil. Movie villains often have lofty ideals. Just as Lu Yingying finished speaking, she received a flick on the forehead from Su Jie. Her cheeks puffed up immediately. "Other villains don't have my charisma. Have you ever seen a villain as handsome as me?" Su Jie said with a smile. Indeed, these deformed monsters, as Lu Yingying mentioned, were created by Su Jie. To be precise, they absorbed Su Jie's holy blood. Though the holy blood was repeatedly diluted, it's not something ordinary people can endure. Their genes collapsed and rewrote under the impact of Su Jie's holy blood, completely losing reason, eventually turning into this form. This is the result of repeated adjustments. Initially, ordinary people receiving the holy blood directly exploded, unable even to undergo deformation. But Su Jie is confident that with further optimization, though it may not allow ordinary people to ascend instantly, it can at least be used by genetic warriors. "Let's go, have lunch, and continue working afterward." Su Jie slapped Lu Yingying's buttocks, and amid Lu Yingying's glare, he turned and left. Another 3 days passed. In the laboratory, Su Jie finished his adjustments, shaking a test tube before him, the tube containing a pure liquid with faint traces of blood mixed within. This was the outcome of multiple experiments by Su Jie, continuously diluting a drop of holy blood, eventually adjusting it to a level suitable for human use. Thanks to those heinous death row prisoners for contributing valuable data. Mission accomplished. Supreme Leader, we succeeded. Around Su Jie were scientists with deep dark circles, Yet without exception, despite their fatigue, each of them had glowing eyes, filled with excitement, because they clearly knew how powerful the newly developed gene potion was. Far surpassing previous versions, it would definitely greatly enhance the strength of genetic warriors. Thank you all for your hard work. Everyone has been eagerly waiting. Let's conduct the first official experiment. Su Jie's face showed a smile. Then he called over the waiting genetic warrior. Supreme Leader, you haven't named this gene potion yet. A scientist beside him reminded. Su Jie pondered for a moment and said, let's call it Holy Blood Gene Potion, and the previous failed ones, let's call them Demon Blood Gene Potion. This gene potion was named Holy Blood Gene Potion because it was mainly derived from Su Jie's separated and diluted holy blood. As for the Demon Blood Gene Potion, it was a failed product. Those irrational deformed monsters resulted from the injection of this potion. Su Jie didn't have to wait long before the head of the Steel Camp, Miao Luan, walked over. He volunteered to participate in this experiment. Despite managing the Steel Camp and holding a high position, he constantly pushed himself to improve. Otherwise, he couldn't control that group of fierce soldiers beneath him. This new Holy Blood Gene Potion carries certain risks. Be mentally prepared. Su Jie looked at Miao Luan, his trusted subordinate. Although he said this, in reality, if anything went wrong, Su Jie could save Miao Luan. I've made all preparations. Let me do it. Miao Luan didn't hesitate, his eyes hotly fixed on the potion in Su Jie's hand, his desire to grow stronger blatantly obvious. An hour of preparation later, in a clean and dust-free operating room, Miao Luan lay on a white bed as the Holy Blood Gene Potion flowed through a needle into his vein, injected into his body. In the first few seconds, everything seemed normal for Miao Luan, but soon, his body began to react intensely. His skin started shedding a large amount of dead skin, muscles began irregularly expanding and contracting, like a snake shedding its old skin. At this moment, the expression on Miao Luan's face was extremely painful. He was a true tough guy capable of accepting second-generation biological armor, able to adapt living armor to the physical body, making him an elite among genetic warriors. Needless to say, Miao Luan has always been the king of one-on-one battles among genetic warriors, consecutively winning multiple annual championship titles. Yet even for Miao Luan, who has traversed Corpse Mountain and Blood Sea, never flinching from bullets, the pain was uncontrollable, highlighting the immense torture he was undergoing, far exceeding the highest level 10 pain level in Blue Star medicine. After all, what Miao Luan was accepting was Su Jie's blood. The evolution of past genetic warriors involved integrating genes extracted from poisonous insects. However, how could those genes compare to Su Jie's holy blood genes? Even though heavily diluted, it's still something ordinary people struggle to withstand, only genetic warriors can barely endure. Such changes went on for a long time, as time passed second by second. An entire day and night later, Miao Luan's transformation finally concluded. He seemed thinner overall, but the biggest change compared to before lay in his heartbeat. His heartbeat was strong and powerful, able to be clearly heard several meters away. Did it succeed? It should have succeeded. At least he didn't turn into one of those deformed monsters. We've been continuously monitoring Miao Luan's physical condition. His blood, heartbeat, muscle fibers, bones, internal organs, etc., all underwent significant changes. Our Holy Blood Gene Potion certainly succeeded. Several scientists eagerly discussed, impatient to record the results of Miao Luan's Holy Blood Gene Potion injection. How's it going? Su Jie's voice reached. Miao Luan's consciousness was dazed, coming back to senses from that numb pain.
Su.
Supreme Leader, I feel great. Miao Luan stood up from the bed, first looking down at his palm, his eyes gradually turning crimson red, heartbeat pounding fiercely, like war drums pounding. Crackling sounds. Miao Luan's muscles and bones stretched, his body making sounds like frying beans, rapidly expanding. His height, originally 1.8 meters, quickly soared over 2 meters, muscle mass thick and solid like rock. With a slight exertion, muscle lines resembled thousands of steel wires intertwined. Unmatched explosive force emanated as a punch launched. Boom! A wave of air pressure blasted forward as if a cannonball exploded, Many around were staggered by the shockwave. Miao Luan himself was momentarily stunned. He was merely testing his strength, not expecting such noise and power, estimating his punch strength was at least several times greater than before injecting the Holy Blood Gene Potion. More importantly, Miao Luan watched his palm as capillaries secreted blood. With his punch, the blood moved with his heart, expanding with the fist, directly blasting a pit in the floor, sizzling as it corroded the sturdy reinforced concrete. Miao Luan's face was full of astonishment. This was different from the poisonous insect gene power he had previously mastered. If the poisonous insect gene was about transforming the body's organs, giving them some animal traits, then injecting the Holy Blood Gene Potion changed the blood fundamentally. More like a leap in the level of life, akin to the evolution from a unicellular organism to a multicellular organism. Miao Luan had a vague feeling that he would surely remain free from most diseases in the future, immune to various viruses. He even felt that he could live to 100 years without illness or disaster, which was entirely achievable. Supreme Leader. My body feels very strange now, completely different from before. Miao Luan looked at Su Jie, and the tough man's eyes also lit up with excitement. Becoming so powerful relied entirely on Su Jie's nurturing. Go to the training ground to test it out. Su Jie smiled. The root of the Holy Blood Gene Potion was in Su Jie's blood. He naturally understood the situation. In a sense, those who injected the Holy Blood Gene Potion gained a trace of Su Jie's bloodline. Even though this bloodline was sparse, it fundamentally changed their level of life, especially considering Su Jie was at the Taoist Platform Realm 4th level, a purple cloud heavenly thunder body, with a God Unification Realm primordial spirit, a walking humanoid calamity. In myths and legends, he would be akin to a god. The changes that Su Jie's bloodline could bring to ordinary people were imaginable. A group of them went to the training ground. After the researchers set up detection instruments, Miao Luan began to comprehensively test the changes in his body after injecting the Holy Blood Gene Potion. Strength is 3.4 times that of before, speed increased by 2.1 times, neurological reaction speed increased by 2.9 times, stamina increased by 4.2 times. With each test, exclamations echoed back and forth at the scene. The researchers' eyes were feverish and excited, looking at Miao Luan as if he were a rare animal. The fervent gaze even made Miao Luan a bit creeped out. It's no wonder the researchers were so excited. The genetic warrior's physical strength was already ridiculously high, able to tear tigers and leopards apart and bathe enemies in blood. Now, the various body data of the genetic warrior had increased several times on an already strong physical foundation, and that strength was simply too exaggerated. They felt like they weren't looking at a person but witnessing an entirely new species. An alien being. Even if someone said Miao Luan could punch down a Tyrannosaurus, they would believe it. Defense strength test, damage recovery test. Miao Luan stood in a fully enclosed room, surrounded by several people in protective suits, continuously undergoing various tests. Testing Miao Luan's resistance to poison gas, high temperatures, radiation, high pressure, shock waves, etc. And as expected, the test results were also way stronger than before. Miao Luan's body was fully transformed, not just in one part, with a very comprehensive enhancement. Finally, it was the turn for firearms. Under the gaze of everyone, the rifle first fired at Miao Luan's arm. The 7.62mm bullets hit Miao Luan's arm, and under the high-speed camera, it was clearly visible that when the bullet contacted Miao Luan's skin, it seemed to hit steel, slightly denting his skin before being deflected. Then it was the turn of the 12.7mm heavy machine gun bullets. Miao Luan's body was stimulated, sensing a trace of danger. He instinctively used his blood, rupturing the capillaries in his skin to form a layer of blood armor. He also used his poisonous insect gene, expanding his body to over 2 meters tall, secreting chitinous substances from his skin to form a sturdy insect armor. With dual protection, the heavy machine gun couldn't harm Miao Luan, who freely moved under the barrage of 12.7mm bullets. Only when the 20mm machine cannon fired, capable of piercing armored vehicles, did it finally break Miao Luan's protective layer, injuring his body. The machine cannon pierced through the crimson blood armor, the sturdy insect armor, the extremely high tensile skin, ripping through muscle fibers entwined like thousands of steel wires, creating bloody exits. But the wounds were not big, only the size of a baby's fist, whereas an ordinary person hit by the machine cannon would be cleaved in half. Skin damaged, muscle damaged, bone, slight bone fracture. It seems carbon-based lifeforms are still hard-pressed against high-powered thermal weapons. As the doctor checked and assessed Miao Luan's wounds, his pupils suddenly contracted violently. Then they saw Miao Luan's damaged parts shrouded in blood, with flesh and blood regenerating rapidly. A blood-formed tentacle emerged, lashing out, startling the doctor into falling to the ground. What kind of recovery is this? Is this still human? Seeing Miao Luan recover the wound caused by the machine cannon in just a dozen seconds, the researchers in attendance were all astonished. Such an overbearing self-healing ability was unlike any organism on Blue Star, more akin to that of an alien being. Just like those malformed monsters that failed the demon blood gene potion, they too possess an exaggerated self-healing ability, even stronger. A large number of researchers gathered around, scrutinizing Miao Luan. This self-healing, sharing its source with the undying characteristic of the blood sea devouring sky demon skill, only inherited a small portion of its efficacy, yet it shocked everyone present. Miao Luan curiously observed the blood tentacles extending from within his body, feeling very novel. As his thoughts changed, the tentacles could also move according to his will. Finally, when Miao Luan donned the second-generation biological armor, the blood armor on Miao Luan's body surface automatically fused with the second-generation biological armor, supplying energy to this living armor. On the clearing, Miao Luan transformed into a mighty figure nearly 3 meters tall, clad in red, fully enclosed battle armor, standing proudly. After donning the second-generation biological armor, even a 20mm machine gun could no longer threaten Miao Luan. It simply couldn't penetrate Miao Luan's defense. The biological armor is a living organism, like an unconscious plant grafted onto Miao Luan's body. Its blood is also part of Miao Luan, allowing the biological armor to integrate well with the blood in Miao Luan's body, greatly enhancing his defenses and various physical functions. Tests showed that only a continuous barrage from a 30mm machine gun could genuinely threaten Miao Luan's life. But 30mm machine guns are mostly vehicle-mounted or aircraft-mounted, making it extremely difficult to kill flexible genetic warriors unless they stand on open ground and get focused fire. After such testing, everyone was awestruck by Miao Luan, as this second-generation gene warrior's body was several times stronger, with increased combat power, added with powerful survival and self-healing abilities, definitely becoming the nightmare of all enemies. Miao Luan, master this power well. It stems from the blood in your body, and you have much more to explore. Su Jie applauded and advised Miao Luan. Yes, Supreme Leader. I will not let everyone down and become your finest soldier. Miao Luan felt invigorated. Without Su Jie, he wouldn't be where he is today. He is a grateful person, willing to offer everything for the god in his heart. For some reason, he felt Su Jie became more endearing, even generating a genuine sense of submission. This was due to a slight bloodline connection between him and Su Jie, a natural yearning and admiration for the source of his body's strength. Miao Luan continued his training, adapting to his suddenly strengthened body, exploring more potential in this body. As the Holy Blood gene potion was developed, more and more genetic warriors underwent injection. This fully enhanced second-generation gene warrior, known as the Holy Blood gene warrior, far surpassed ordinary genetic warriors in combat power. However, not all genetic warriors could withstand the intense gene rewrite and reorganization power of the Holy Blood gene potion. Just as not all genetic warriors could use the second-generation biological armor, only the elite among genetic warriors could become Holy Blood gene warriors. As the Jekka group continuously produced Holy Blood gene potions and trained second-generation Sacred Blood gene warriors, the outside world on Blue Star grew increasingly treacherous, with a malice beginning to approach the Jekka group. In an interview by Nobel biologist Capuno, he stated that Jekka group's biochemical gene technology is uncontrollable. Contact with genetic warriors may result in gene pollution, causing genetic defects and various diseases in oneself. Biological batteries are increasing in production, revolutionizing the global battery industry, leading to the bankruptcy of numerous related upstream and downstream companies, displacing industrial workers, and dropping global oil prices to historic lows, with JECA Group gradually controlling global energy. According to an anonymous insider from the JECA Group, the company is researching multiple new drugs, including anti-cancer medications, aiming to eliminate most global diseases and force the bankruptcy of global pharmaceutical giants. In the second quarter of this year, 20 Kunping rockets have been launched, with a launch every 5 days on average. The JECA Group is occupying humanity's space with advanced aerospace technology, developing space weapons and threatening the security of every country worldwide. The South Alliance's 3-year development plan white paper has been published, with the JECA Group leading the South Alliance to continue expanding its sphere of influence, planning military aggression in Australia, New Lawn Country, India, the Middle East, and other regions to create Greater South Asia co-prosperity. Dragon Coin is tied to too many things, and purchasing biological batteries and various JECA Group pharmaceuticals requires Dragon Coin. JECA Group, through its energy and pharmaceutical hegemony, is pushing Dragon Coin towards becoming a global currency, with US dollar hegemony rapidly declining, gaining global financial dominance. A multitude of truths and falsehoods began to appear globally, with every report receiving widespread coverage, exploding on television, the internet, and print media, as if an invisible hand was actively promoting the JECA Group threat theory. This wave of public opinion grew stronger, with many worldwide believing it true. After all, these news articles were half true, with some obviously false but others genuinely pointing to JECA Group endeavors. Ordinary people may not yet feel deeply affected, but those in pharmaceutical and energy companies do indeed sense the ominous arrival of a cold winter. With JECA Group's advanced medical technology, every resolved condition monopolizes an industry market, terrifying many pharmaceutical giants. Energy companies, let alone, after the emergence of the biological battery, countless battery enterprises went bankrupt, and many oil companies could no longer continue. JECA Group is gradually monopolizing vehicle energy and electronics batteries, besting the largest global energy market. Even countries neighboring the JECA Group fear its potent martial virtue and strong expansion desires, fearing to be forced into the South Alliance. Even countries not bordering the JECA Group feel Dragon Coin's rise, especially in those third-world impoverished nations where locals earn Dragon Coin by selling blood, valued much higher than their country's currency, greatly infringing upon US dollar financial hegemony. A slew of JECA Group threat theories are making the JECA Group a prime target. Under these influences, countries worldwide began introducing various countermeasures. For example, the Great British Empire's Prime Minister publicly demanded that companies within the Great British Empire refuse Dragon Coin, banning it from entering their currency exchange system. Furthermore, multiple European Union nations jointly declared an 85% tariff increase on South Alliance member country products to protect their domestic businesses while prohibiting key technologies, like lithography machines, from being sold to the South Alliance. The beautiful country, as the anti-JECA vanguard, naturally would not fall behind. Several laws were introduced targeting JECA Group, restricting blood black market circulation, and banning blood loans, among others. It's essential to know that these blood gold-earning blood donation companies were operated by domestic capital within the beautiful country. Passing this law could only mean another greater force influenced Black Palace decisions. And many are not unfamiliar with this power. It is the ingrained UTI within the beautiful country. The worldwide sudden surge of JECA Group threat theories is also their handiwork. The vested interest group from UTI is a critical force within the beautiful country, with key figures joining to cause turmoil against JECA Group. In UTI's Hollywood, with considerable influence, Jewish figures began producing a series of films, television series, and documentaries to tarnish JECA Group's image, portraying the group as villains. Alternatively, using their influence to cut off resources needed by the South Alliance, they implemented resource sanctions. On Wall Street, UTI attempted financial warfare against JECA Group-led South Alliance through various stock market, futures, and forex actions. However, after several rule-breaking moves like power cuts and pig slaughtering by JECA Group, foreign capital quickly became compliant. Furthermore, UTI began actively reaching out to the beautiful country's radical upper echelons, providing financial and logistical support while their friendly officials and lobbying groups were exerting strength, attempting discussions with those arms companies. For, once war erupts, arms companies profit immensely, increasing government procurement to earn untold fortunes. Due to UTI's machinations, JECA Group's reputation and international environment on Blue Star have worsened. It feels as if the entire world isolates JECA Group, or rather, JECA Group isolates the world. The various public opinions from the outside world were quickly learned by JECA, and they locked their target on UTI. Through the collection by the intelligence department, a lot of data was compiled to Liu Yingying's side, and then, through Liu Yingying, it reached Su Jie. When Liu Yingying found Su Jie, he was inspecting a subsidiary of the JECA Group in the northern suburb of Siamese City, called Manchester Aircraft Industry. This company has a comprehensive airport and dedicated highways, railway freight lines, and is adjacent to the Northern Freight Station of Manchester, with convenient transportation and a superior geographical location. The company covers a total area of 8 million square meters, with 25,000 registered employees, about one-third of whom are engineering and technical management personnel. It is an extra-large enterprise under the aviation industry of the JECA Group, integrating scientific research, production, testing, and test flights into one aircraft manufacturing company. In addition, not far away, there is a large military airport adjacent to Mande City. The airport is wholly owned by the JECA Group. Although it is located in Siam, built with Siam's manpower and material resources, the ownership belongs to the JECA Group. The Siamese side has no authority to impose restrictions or demands, and instead, they have to provide funds for this military airport every year. Accompanying Su Jie were many senior engineers in the factory, including Baya, the king of Siam, who was also cautiously accompanying him. When Liu Yingying arrived, Su Jie was standing in a super-large production workshop, staring intently at the production work inside. The efficient automated machinery simplified a large number of production processes. Workers only needed to input the data of electronic control programs, ensure that each production stage was error-free, and avoid mistakes during assembly, so the work was not too tiring. However, unlike other aircraft production, besides a large amount of metal and components, there was also a large amount of biological tumors, shaped like honeycombs about 3 meters high. When used, they needed to be cut with special water knife devices and attached to the corresponding engineering parts. These tumors would gradually stick and fuse into a hole upon infusion with the spiritual liquid. As numerous procedures came to an end, a gigantic bomber was taking shape, its enormous size almost filling the entire workshop. Rather than being an aircraft, it was more like a flying battleship. The bomber had an inverted U-shape, round and bulky like a beetle, looking somewhat cute. But if one could ignore its massive size, just by visual estimation, its body length exceeded 100 meters, making it longer than many escort ships. The bomber didn't have the usual wings. Its shell was smooth and sky blue, with various sizes of white circular spots resembling stars suspended in the sky, offering a unique aesthetic. What kind of aircraft is this? Baya, standing beside Su Jie, widened his eyes, full of disbelief. If he was the nominal king of Siam, then Su Jie was the emperor of Siam. He had no authority to enter this highly confidential Manchester aircraft industry, and this was the first time Baya saw the real thing. It's called the Luanyang Airspace Strategic Bomber. Of course, I prefer to call it the Little Beetle. Su Jie said with a smile, while Baya's mouth twitched upon hearing it, looking at the enormous object in front of him. You call this thing a little beetle? For a detailed introduction, let our chief engineer Su Gong do it. Su Jie looked at the man standing to his left. The man's name was Su Yen Chong, with an impressive resume. Later, he joined JECA Group and became the chief factory master of Manchester Aircraft Industry with his bold designs and excellent technical management skills. Su Yen Chang's eyes were fervent, and he spoke unreservedly and gracefully. The Luanyang Airspace Strategic Bomber, with a length of 135 meters, a height of 29 meters, an empty weight of 280 tons, a maximum takeoff weight of 1050 tons, a maximum flight speed of 2.34 Mach, a flight altitude up to 55,000 meters, and a maximum range of 36,000 kilometers. It is equipped with biological stealth and anti-radar functions, with a unique hovering method, allowing low-powered hovering operations, with a maximum hover time of 12 days. It adopts a biological battery dual-energy system, capable of carrying hundreds of tons of bombs and missiles, various different vehicles, a battalion of paratroopers, powerful self-defense firepower, and an airborne early warning aircraft's command function. Baya was astounded. Although he had a superficial understanding of military affairs, he knew there was no bomber as big as this in the world. Even the most powerful bombers from the beautiful country had a maximum takeoff weight of just over 100 tons, and carrying dozens of tons of explosives was impressive, but this Luanyang Airspace Strategic Bomber was even more expansive. Even the world's largest aircraft, the An-225, with a maximum takeoff weight of 650 tons, pales in comparison. Such an aircraft is worthy of the Jekka Group. It's only in the talent-rich Jekka Group that such a powerful and terrifying long-range strategic bomber could be created. Even though he didn't understand, Baya knew that this was the right time for some flattery. This is mainly due to Su President's wise leadership. Without Su President, there wouldn't have been the success of the Luanyang Airspace Strategic Bomber. Su Yenchang looked at Su Jie with worshipful eyes. Baya glanced at Su Yenchang a couple of times, surprised that this engineer, who seemed like a bookworm, was also skilled in flattery. However, Baya didn't know that Su Yenchang's words weren't flattery, but were entirely sincere. Without the materials and guidance provided by Su Jie, they couldn't have completed the development of the Luanyang Airspace Strategic Bomber so quickly. For example, when it comes to the energy issue, the Luanyang Airspace Strategic Bomber is so massive that maintaining such a huge payload and range demands an incredibly terrifying amount of energy. If it were to use aviation fuel exclusively, most of the airplane's remaining space would likely need to be used to store fuel. Instead, Su Jie provided biological batteries, not the ones currently sold on the market, but biological batteries with much higher energy density. These provided the Luanyang Airspace Strategic Bomber with sufficient energy, allowing it to circle Blue Star. Additionally, various high-strength biomaterials ensure that the enormous structure of the Luanyang Airspace Strategic Bomber does not disintegrate during high-speed, high-altitude flights. Moreover, Su Jie provided a lot of guidance during the research and development process, especially concerning the biomaterials used in the bomber. Whenever he raised an issue, it was often solved by Su Jie within just a few days. For example, a problem that had troubled Su Yenchang for a long time was the curvature at the root of the flight muscle, where the biological meat tumor couldn't withstand the high-speed ascent force. After reporting this to Su Jie, he received a new biological meat tumor just 2 days later, whose strength remained unaffected even after hundreds of flaps, perfectly solving his problem. In the eyes of researchers like Su Yenchang, the presence of Su Jie is like a mathematics graduate meeting Gauss and Newton, a genuine reverence for knowledge. If Su Jie knew what Su Yenchang thought, he would only smile indifferently, relying not on science, but on spiritual power and mysticism. Perhaps science could explain it, but Su Jie himself only knew the outcome without understanding the reasoning. If the biological meat tumor lacked strength, he would simply fuse more poisonous insect genes, add more spirit stones and spiritual liquid, and the materials would also come from spiritual material from Blue Star. The biological battery of the Luanyang Airspace Strategic Bomber, for example, uses mid-grade spirit stones as the battery core and can be accurately described as a spiritual energy battery. Building one Luanyang Airspace Strategic Bomber is quite costly, enough to bankrupt a Yunling realm disciple from Tianyuan world. However, Su Jie is now strong and wealthy, and spending some spirit stones to manufacture high-end military equipment and enhance Jekka Group's overall strength is no issue. Everyone, don't just stay here. Come out with me to take a look. Su Jie smiled, speaking as the newly launched Luanyang Airspace Strategic Bomber was being transported out of the factory. After various inspections, several pilots climbed aboard for a brief engine start. Buzzing. Then, the previously quiet Luanyang Airspace Strategic Bomber suddenly roared to life, with the upper part of the sleek fuselage tilting to both sides. Underneath were dozens of pairs of semi-transparent, thin wings flapping violently at high frequency. Each wing was nearly 100 meters long, whipping up a terrifying whirlwind, bending branches of distant trees, and some farther onlookers, improperly seated researchers, were directly blown head over heels and rolled into a heap on the ground. Baya's mouth opened wide, finally understanding how the Luanyang Airspace Strategic Bomber flew. It was actually bionic flight, no wonder Su Jie called this thing a little beetle. In flight, it really resembled a beetle perfectly. Without any need for takeoff, the Luanyang Airspace Strategic Bomber completely relied on powerful brick flying, using the high-frequency wing flapping of dozens of thin wings to lift the massive 100-meter-long fuselage into the air, flying low above the ground, creating a hurricane-like gust that tossed people around. This is the pride of our Manchester aircraft industry. The Luanyang Airspace Strategic Bomber achieves high speed, agility, and heavy payload flights by mimicking the flight of insects through bionics. This is an unprecedented feat on Blue Star. Su Yen-chong shouted excitedly, like a child seeing his favorite toy, unable to contain his excitement. In the natural world, many people consider birds to be the best flying animals, but this is not the case. Most insects possess astonishing distances-lasting capabilities, able to fly across mountains, oceans, and continents. For example, the well-known locust is an insect adept at long-distance flight. During locust plagues, they can continuously move, flying without pause for weeks on end, landing only to feed, and flying over 100 kilometers a day, even crossing oceans, a scourge much dreaded by ancient agrarian civilizations. To put it in human terms, if locusts were comparable to humans, this distance would be like a person running 13,000 laps around Blue Star, or completing 500 round trips from Blue Star to the moon. The Luanyang Airspace Strategic Bomber circled in the air, with its wings flapping hundreds of times per second, creating an unbelievable gale speed. The scene was utterly breathtaking, watching a bomber hundreds of tons in weight and 100 meters in length fly by, causing lush forests to bow like a wave of grain, stirring turbulent waves on calm lakes, with countless small animals startled into frantically fleeing, then dizzy from being buffeted by the strong wind, rolling haphazardly. How many beetles have been produced so far? Su Jie asked Su Yen-chong, as this grand toy being a man he also liked very much. Su Yen-chong replied, "We have already produced 12, a result of joint efforts from our Manchester aircraft industry, along with several other aircraft production bases. Continue increasing the number of beetles. We need more of these strategic bombers to maintain the territorial security of JECA Group," Su Jie said to Su Yen-chong, while even Baya beside him had no room to complain. With a range of over 30,000 kilometers, capable of carrying nearly 1,000 tons of bombs, equipment, and paratroopers, serving as strong bombers, transport planes, and AWACS, this super bomber can bomb from the South Alliance directly to the beautiful country and European Union mainland, and leisurely return. How does it not look like a massive weapon for invading other countries? With JECA Group's current combat power, even the beautiful country would find them formidable. Who would dare easily provoke the lion now? As Baya thought about this, footsteps were heard behind him. Baya turned his head and saw a woman in black silk stockings, embodying both sensuality and professionalism, walking over. "Secretary Liu, good afternoon." Baya hurriedly greeted humbly, for the arriving woman was the second-in-command of JECA Group, also the South Alliance's Secretary-General, with a status far higher than his own as the Siam King. Liu Yingying just nodded to Baya, then came beside Su Jie and handed a stack of documents to Su Jie. "These are the intelligence reports from the Intelligence Department. Yutai country has been actively causing trouble lately, targeting our JECA Group with international opinion, environment, and resource issues." Liu Yingying quickly explained the situation, the documents bearing the signature of Xiaomeng, the Intelligence Department Director. Su Jie took the documents and saw the recent activities of the Yutai Group. The Intelligence Department of JECA Group uses genetic warriors as their backbone. The genetic warriors there have fused with many reconnaissance-type poisonous insect capabilities, with all kinds of infrared and intelligence-gathering abilities, often obtaining intelligence without anyone knowing. Even though the Yutai Group attempted disguise, they couldn't escape JECA Group's eyes. Interesting, they think that escaping to Yutai country makes them untouchable. It's truly laughable. Su Jie shook his head with a smile, his eyes not showing much anger, as if watching unruly kids provoking before knowing better. To deal with such brats, breaking legs would suffice. Baya, listening on the side, was extremely astonished. The Yutai group dared to provoke Jekka group? Do they have a death wish? Normally, no one dares to provoke a superpower. Under Jekka group's leadership, the South Alliance undoubtedly has immense national strength, acting like a giant beast lying in the south. The Yutai wouldn't avoid it but dared to challenge. Baya racked his brains but couldn't figure out why the Yutai dared. Have they always been so bold? Some always think themselves the chosen ones, unable to see the situation. After thousands of years of beatings, still haven't learned a lesson. Since that's the case, Su Jie looked at the Luanyang bomber landing, folding its wings, tucking them onto the inner side of the fuselage. A trace of a cruel smile appeared at the corner of his mouth, his eyes cold, commanding Lu Yingying. Tell Miao Luan, I feel like eating squid. Are we executing the cross-judgment action? Yes, I understand. Lu Yingying nodded, turned, and left, preparing to mobilize the strength of Jekka group, to open the eyes of some sightless beings and have them understand the meaning of awe. July 25, 2030, at the United Nations Security Council. A United Nations meeting is underway, with representatives from various countries taking their seats. The climate issue cannot be delayed, the trend of global warming. Japan's continuous discharge of nuclear wastewater into the sea is causing. Jekka Group's development of the blood gold industry is stained with sin, suggesting. As usual in the meeting, everyone is presenting their views and arguing. The United Nations Security Council is not as prestigious as people think. Even internet celebrities can come here to check in and give speeches. During meetings, it's common to see people here shouting at each other. In reality, the United Nations Security Council, which aims to resolve global conflicts, works so that if a big issue can be solved here, it's essentially not a big issue. For major countries, paying attention to the Security Council is just a perfunctory gesture. But today, besides the quarreling participants, many cast their eyes towards the Chan country's sign, where a woman sat quietly. Her sharply tailored dark purple business suit accentuated her sharp and competent aura. Below her high-bridged nose, her red lips parted slightly, exuding an unquestionable authority. Lu Yingying, the right hand of the South Alliance's supreme leader, is also the Secretary General of the South Alliance, and the second most powerful figure in Jekka Group. Her presence at the meeting today surely indicates something extremely important. Otherwise, a representative from Jekka Group at the Security Council would suffice to speak. All right, now it's time for the representative from Chan Country, Secretary Lu, to speak, please. It quickly came to Lu Yingying's turn to speak, and all eyes in the venue focused on her. With calm and deliberate movements, Lu Yingying opened her briefcase and took out a small bottle containing some white powdery substance. Facing the representatives from various countries present, Lu Yingying spoke in a loud, forceful voice. I am here today at the United Nations Security Council for one reason only, which is to accuse Yutai country of developing large-scale biochemical weapon experiments, and what I hold here is the evidence. With these words, the entire venue exploded, as no one expected Lu Yingying to come up with such a move. The representative from beautiful country looked black-faced, thinking, damn, isn't this supposed to be beautiful country's line? Damn it, how did Jekka Group learn the essence of framing and slandering? The representative from Russia stifled a laugh and nudged the shoulder of the Hua country representative next to them. I bet it's laundry detergent inside. What do you think? The Hua country representative just rolled their eyes and did not respond. Representatives from all over the world had varying expressions, with Yutai country being the angriest, furious at Lu Yingying's slander, and they slammed the table and stood up. Nonsense! How could our Yutai country possibly be researching large-scale biochemical weapons? It's clear that Jekka Group is slandering us. The United Nations Security Council is not your platform for false accusations against Yutai country. Lu Yingying maintained a calm expression, glanced at the Yutai country representative, and said indifferently, targeting Yutai country's conduct in researching large-scale biochemical weapons, I now request the United Nations Security Council to authorize Chan country to send troops into U-Tai country to conduct searches, to prevent U-Tai country from carrying out such globally harmful large-scale biochemical weapon experiments. With these words, the venue immediately fell somewhat silent. It was clear Liu Yingying wasn't just here to haggle and berate. There was a genuine intention to take action. Should the United Nations Security Council authorize it, genetic warriors might soon enter U-Tai country. I oppose. Your JECA group has no right to do so. The evidence you present is full of loopholes, insufficient for justifying sending troops to search U-Tai country. The representative from Beautiful Country promptly cast a veto. U-Tai country is their stronghold in the Middle East, so there's no way they could agree to JECA group's actions against U-Tai country. France opposes. Great Britain opposes. Germany opposes. Japan opposes. South Korea opposes. Most representatives in the venue vetoed this draft resolution, as JECA Group's evidence is truly weak, and it's clear to the discerning eye that JECA Group concocted it as an excuse to target U-Tai country. Claiming that this small bottle of unknown white powder means U-Tai country is researching biochemical weapons is an insult to their intelligence. With most countries opposing, Chan country's bid for support from the United Nations Security Council was a total failure. Based on the votes, the proposal from Chan country's representative has been rejected. Amidst a wave of opposition, it was no surprise that Liu Yingying's proposal was rejected. However, Liu Yingying did not look disappointed. She had expected this outcome and didn't think that a small bottle of powder would allow the Security Council to authorize military intervention, as even Beautiful Country failed to achieve that in the past. Liu Yingying's performance at the United Nations Security Council was merely to inform all countries globally that there's a pretext available, a valid excuse, no matter how clumsy it might be. Many at the scene realized this point, and quite a few looked at the U-Tai country representative with sympathetic eyes. Doesn't U-Tai country realize how ruthless JECA Group's methods are, given its growth to this point? While others steer clear, U-Tai country dared to offend, and now, inevitably, JECA Group has come to trouble them. Some countries familiar with the scenario already understood that U-Tai country had been messing with JECA Group extensively, and now JECA Group's retaliation wasn't unexpected. JECA Group, after swallowing all of Southeast Asia, is now looking to intervene in our country. I call upon all nations to recognize JECA Group's ambitious intentions quickly. It won't stop its annexation efforts, and if not curtailed, it will eventually reach you. The representative of U-Tai country is still inciting other countries, but everyone is not foolish. In the face of the malice from the JECA Group, who dares to stand with U-Tai country, fearing to be caught in the crossfire. Even the representative of U-Tai country's big brother, the Beautiful Country, has a gloomy face and didn't immediately make a statement to shout at JECA Group to attack or threaten them. This, in fact, is a form of expression. I didn't expect everyone to be so partial and protective of U-Tai country. The evidence of their large-scale evil biochemical weapon testing is conclusive. I urge all countries to persuade their citizens and tourists to return home as soon as possible. Do not continue staying in U-Tai country. Otherwise, if there is a biochemical weapon leak, the weapon won't recognize people, and anyone could be attacked by it and be harmed or even lose their life. Liu Yingying shook her head and sighed. Many couldn't help but complain, saying, "Who can beat your JECA Group when it comes to biochemical weapons? The genetic warriors from biochemical genetic modification technologies aren't fake." But there are more people whose hearts chilled, hearing the implicit meaning in Liu Yingying's words to evacuate citizens and tourists. Typically, when a country's citizens and tourists are evacuated on a large scale, it means there's been a terrorist attack, coup, or infectious disease. Isn't this saying that JECA Group is about to play the assassination tactics again? After saying this, Liu Yingying has already gotten up and left early. The purpose of coming here today has been achieved, and the rest is up to the military. Right after the United Nations Security Council meeting concluded, everything from the meeting quickly made global headlines, stirring global discussion. JECA Group accuses U-Tai country of large-scale biochemical weapon testing. They're learning from the Beautiful Country spirit, crossing the river by feeling eagle. Why is Jekka Group inexplicably accusing Thai country when these two countries are not even bordering each other? You're too slow with the news. The Thai control half of the global media. Who do you think has been generating all the negative rumors about Jekka Group recently? Is Jekka Group really going to send genetic warriors to assassinate in Thai country? The Middle East is the beautiful country's forbidden area, and Thai country is its darling. Aren't they afraid of provoking the beautiful country to intervene? Fight! I support Jekka Group. I've long been displeased with those Thai, always moralizing, but actually full of evil thoughts. I'm a student in Thai country and just received a notification from the embassy, urging us to leave Thai country as soon as possible, both online and offline. Because of a small bottle from Jekka Group, a widespread uproar has arisen, with onlookers turning their attention to Jekka Group. And the global response was swift, with various diplomatic offices issuing notices urging citizens in Thai country to properly arrange their schedules, return home promptly, and not linger. Thai country has even entered a first-level state of combat readiness, fully mobilizing active troops and militia reserves, and recalling retired soldiers. Those Thai elite were also in uproar, frantically calling out to the beautiful country with all their might to lobby the high-ranking officials of the Black Palace, hoping the beautiful country would lend a helping hand and quickly send troops to Thai country to stop Jekka Group, this madman, from going crazy. They are not sure whether Jekka Group will actually take action against Thai country, like in the past, dispatching genetic warriors to execute assassination tactics, but without the beautiful country's protection, relying on their own forces, facing those fearsomely capable genetic warriors, they still feel insecure. But the beautiful country's response is somewhat intriguing. In the past, whatever happened in Thai country, the beautiful country would always respond immediately. This time is different. The combat groups of the beautiful country's aircraft carriers in the Mediterranean have not come to patrol the west coast of Thai country, but instead, they started moving away from the vicinity of Thai country, showing no intention to fully protect it. On the other hand, the beautiful country began massively providing Thai country with a huge amount of weaponry and even dispatched mercenaries to join the Thai country's forces. Actually, even the beautiful country is conflicted. They do not want to be dragged into a war with Jekka Group because of Thai country, nor do they want Thai country to suffer a heavy blow from Jekka Group and be massacred by genetic warriors. Therefore, providing weaponry and allowing its soldiers to participate as mercenaries could still be seen as a commercial action. Everyone knows what's happening, much like what's happening between Russia and Ukraine, at least keeping things restrained on the surface without tearing faces apart. But if the aircraft carrier combat group participates, then the nature would be different, which is why the beautiful country hasn't sent out the aircraft carrier combat group. Black Palace. In the office, the beautiful country President Jesman spoke with a serious expression. Is the movement of Jekka Group confirmed? Our military spy satellites are observing all major naval ports of Jekka Group around the clock, and some spies are in action, but the situation is still unclear, came the response from CIA Director Judith. What do you think is the likelihood of Jekka Group taking action against Thai? 90%. That high? Jesman was surprised, quite unexpected. Judith nodded and said, I understand the Jekka Group. Their leader, Su Jie, is a vindictive person. Recently, the actions of the Thai have angered him. He certainly won't let it go. Jesman was having a headache. Gritting her teeth, she said, These damn Thai guys, they're simply idle with nothing better to do, just causing me trouble for no good reason. And now they want our beautiful country to clean up after them. Jesman was very annoyed. The events in Thai country made him, as the president, very uncomfortable. The Thai in the beautiful country have strong influence, and this Thai elite network involves all aspects, and has long formed a highly organized interest community. Therefore, when the interests of the Thai community are touched, this interest community will react quickly, using their resources to influence the media, promote legislation, and speak out to protect their interests, not to mention the death threats from the Jekka Group, forcing these Thai to exhaust all connections. As the president, he had to deal with various calls almost every day, and Congress was unsettled as well. Fortunately, in the beautiful country, the Thai influence is not the sole dominant power, and this crisis could potentially affect the prosperity and decline of the beautiful country. So Jesmond had no choice but to be cautious. For this reason, Jesmond had already reached out to other interest and financial groups in the beautiful country, such as the blue-blooded nobles, the military-industrial complex, and the leading old family conglomerates like the Rockefellers and the Morgans. Everyone felt it was best to wait and see. After all, the assassination by genetic warriors could be endured, and perhaps the Jekka group might find it difficult to enter Yutai country and give up on the decapitation tactic. After all, those being decapitated by assassination are not them, so they were certainly not anxious. In the beautiful country, the true power is not yet in the hands of the Yutai. Mr. President, currently there is no military movement from the Jekka group, but it's possible the genetic warriors are already on their way. Judith shrugged, presenting her speculation. Jesmond tapped the table, instructing, "Continue to intensify surveillance on the Jekka group. As soon as the Jekka group dispatches the genetic warriors, don't be polite. Provide Yutai country with all intelligence and weapon support, except for deploying troops. Try to keep the genetic warriors in Yutai country, and strike against the arrogance of the Jekka group." Judith understood instantly, and quickly turned to leave. After Judith left, another patriotic expression sounded in the office once more. "Fake. These crappy squids. Really want to roast them with fire." 2 weeks passed quietly. As time went on, the Jekka group did not make much noise. According to satellite images, except for the elusive Devourer-class deep-diving cruiser, the warship stationed in the port remained there, and those transport ships and amphibious landing ships showed no signs of assembling. This phenomenon made countries around the world realize, guessing that the Jekka group had dispatched the genetic warriors. Because the Jekka group is over 5,000 kilometers in a straight-line distance from Yutai country, with no land borders, to engage in large-scale warfare, they can only rely on the Navy, deploying a mighty maritime fleet, carrying a large number of transport ships, dispatching soldiers to land. Since the Jekka group showed no signs of a large-scale Navy deployment, it precisely indicates that the Jekka group still intends to use the decapitation tactic. Not long ago, the example of the South Korea's Samsung Lee family was still vivid, proving that the Jekka group is fully capable of threatening to kill those they want in the city. This made Yutai country extremely nervous. After all, the name and reputation of the genetic warriors are formidable, even with a large army protecting them. Those hiding in Yutai country's dignitaries and elites still felt insecure. These Yutai elites kept increasing their protection. Some hid in military camps, some hid in underground bunkers. These Yutai elite were filled with unease, not knowing when the assassination by genetic warriors might arrive, feeling as if they lived every moment with a sword of Damocles hanging over their heads, constantly living in fear. Yutai country, Haifa City. This is an important port city of Yutai country, located along the Mediterranean coast. It serves as the administrative, industrial, and international trade and commercial center of northern Yutai, with the renowned Yutai Institute of Technology and Haifa University situated here, alongside many research institutions. In the night, on a freighter in the Mediterranean, several shadows in wetsuits quietly emerged from the cargo hold. Even the crew on the ship didn't know when someone had hitched a ride without their knowledge. Upon reaching the deck, the shadows unhesitatingly leaped into the pitch-black sea. A few bubbles emerged, and the sea surface quickly returned to calm. A crew member on night watch poked his head out to look around but found nothing, assuming a big fish had leaped out of the sea, and paid it no mind. Near the coast of Yutai, there were patrol boats patrolling the sea and patrol teams on the shore, coupled with frogmen detection sonar deployed, making it hard for ordinary frogmen units to successfully infiltrate, as it was highly demanding in reconnaissance and physical capability. However, this time it wasn't an ordinary frogmen unit. Over an hour later, at an unmanned coastline with a leak gap, Situong emerged from the water, quickly came ashore, and took off the wet wetsuit. Behind him were 5 other accompanying genetic warriors. Only genetic warriors could swim for over an hour in wetsuits weighing dozens of kilograms. The current time is 1:23 a.m. We must reach the Haifa City National Medical Research Institute within 2 hours to complete the mission. Situong destroyed the wetsuit he had taken off, checked his watch, and issued an order to the other 5 genetic warriors. The group climbed a small hill, and from a distance, they could already see the brightly lit Haifa city in the distance, conspicuous in the night. After confirming their bearings, Situong and his team quickly set off, rushing towards the destination. Along the way, guards, patrol teams with military dogs, and surveillance cameras equipped with thermal imaging could be seen occasionally. Because of fear of the Jekka group's genetic warriors, Yutai country had made many preparations, and once these patrolling military police discovered a genetic warrior or went missing for more than half an hour, the Yutai Command Center would be notified. However, with I-worm reconnaissance and genetic warriors specialized in scouting directions in the team, combined with auxiliary poisonous insect genes carrying reconnaissance capabilities such as thermal imaging, ultrasound echolocation, compound insect eyes, vibration sensing, electrostatic field, polarized light vision, and other special reconnaissance means, they were able to find patrol intervals and slip through even in pitch-dark nights. An hour later, the genetic warriors successfully infiltrated Haifa City. In the city, it was already late at night, and most of the Yutai people in the city had already entered slumber. Still, Situong and his team remained vigilant. Out of caution, Yutai country had essentially driven out all Asian-looking people from the country, fearing genetic warriors might mix in. If Situong's team was seen by anyone, they could easily be exposed. Situong chose to steal a van parked on the roadside, and the team all got in, approaching the target area. 20 minutes later, Situong's team arrived in front of a complex of buildings. Yutai National Medical Research Institute. This is the name of the complex, established by Yutai country, conducting life sciences and medical research. Its share of research and development funding from the Yutai government is second only to the Ministry of Defense, with a research budget reaching $4.3 billion. Situong selected a building and gestured to one of the genetic warriors. The genetic warrior stepped forward, having fused with a certain red phosphorus gecko goo worm gene. His hands swelled and became wide and thick. Grainy bumps appeared on his palms. When he touched the wall, they clung to it like a gecko. Follow up. Situong grabbed the heel of this genetic warrior, and the others followed suit, each grabbing onto the other like they were accessories, climbing the wall as the leading genetic warrior did, bypassing a lot of security facilities and surveillance cameras. Upon reaching the top of the building, it became even easier for the genetic warriors, as they quickly slipped into a nearby room. This room was evidently a laboratory. A faint weird smell lingered in the air, which Situong immediately recognized as the smell of death. Turning his head, he saw several corpses soaked in formalin, with appearances evidently characteristic of the Aber people, including old, weak women and children. The room also contained some experimental documents, and with a casual glance, Situong understood this was a targeted genetic weapon for the Aber people being researched here by Yutai country. This was a highly lethal genetic weapon, acting on specific genetic genes in the application process, targeting the Aber ethnicity and causing the virus to spread only among the target group in the form of a virulent infectious disease. This was not surprising, as Yutai country was just a minority group in the Middle East. Coupled with their greed for land, they had been constantly at war and expanding since the country's founding, never recognizing the United Nations Security Council's partition agreement, and were very afraid of the Aber people uniting to drive them out. Hence the desire to develop this specific genetic weapon for future use against the Aber people to ensure that Yutai had the final say over this ancient homeland. According to the documents, this National Medical Research Institute conducted numerous genetic weapon experiments, and many captured Aber people were sent here. Right now, what Situong sees is just the tip of the iceberg. On the surface, this is just an ordinary medical research institute, but in reality, it secretly researches things like bacteria, viruses, and human experiments. Situong is not surprised by this because according to the propaganda in the Yutai country, people outside of Yutai, whether Buddhists or Christians or even those without faith, all of these over 70 billion people do not deserve to live according to the Yutai scripture, Torah. To the Yutai descendants, these are merely humanoid animals, not even worthy of being called humans. Many people in Yutai country think this way as well and act accordingly. So it's no surprise that they commit such cruel acts. You're actually playing with genetic weapons, I didn't wrong you, but in front of our Jekka group, such genetic weapons are child's play. As soon as Situong finished speaking, he began to rise and walk away. 5 genetic warriors followed in Sichuang's footsteps, each taking out a jar. The jars were about the size of a thermos, containing a deep purple liquid, bubbling away. As Situang opened the jar in his hand, the liquid began to vaporize in the air, spreading throughout this national medical center. This liquid is actually the Demon Blood Gene Potion, a failed product during the development of the Holy Blood Gene Potion, modified to spread through the air instead of being injected. After completing everything, Situang and the others turned and left. The entire process went unnoticed by anyone. But even if someone did spot the genetic warriors, it wouldn't matter because the Yutai there would soon be overwhelmed. Time passed quietly, and after just a few minutes, some of the personnel stationed at the National Medical Research Institute suddenly felt feverish, itchy all over, and their heads heavy. Although this is a medical research institute, not everyone wears fully sealed protective suits at all times, especially the Yutai researchers in the lounge, who collapsed first and began convulsing violently. Fute, what's wrong with you? Hurry, call a doctor. No, isolate him immediately. In a lounge, seeing their companions suddenly collapse, a few Yutai were so frightened that they backed away continuously. They had basic knowledge and worried that their companion had contracted some infectious disease. After all, what they researched were very dangerous viruses and bacteria. But before the person they called for arrived, the body of the fallen companion began a wild mutation amidst violent convulsions. His flesh grew wildly, sprouting grotesque and bizarre chunks of flesh, tendons and arteries twisted, skin pale and spotted, eyes glimmering with an ominous red light in the dim light, accompanied by low gasps, slowly standing up from the ground, reaching a height of over 3 meters, hitting the ceiling. If any Ghost Ridge Palace disciples were present, they would find the appearance of the deformed monster before them resembling the alien ghosts roaming the forests of Ghost Ridge Palace, though uglier and weaker. Such a terrifying scene stunned the on-site Yutai, their eyes round and mouths agape, too terrified to make a sound. The mutant ghost, infected by the Demon Blood Gene Potion, however, did not freeze. With a low growl, it swung its right arm, striking a Yutai researcher. Its arm, twice the thickness of a normal person's thigh, broke the Yutai's rib cage, smashed the internal organs, causing the chest to cave in, and sent them flying 10 meters away. Monster! The sudden death finally snapped the crowd back to reality, prompting terrified screams as they tried to turn and flee. But their speed was no match for the mutant ghost. The mutant ghost lunged forward, its beast-like claws slashing through, directly dismembering several fleeing individuals, blood mixed with organs scattered on the ground, leaving only wails and cries for help, which soon ceased. Roar! 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 Stimulated by the scent of blood, the mutant ghost became more violently excited. As a failed product modified by the Demon Blood Gene Potion, its mind has lost all human reason, leaving only the bloodthirsty instinct of a beast. Similar scenes took place throughout the National Medical Research Institute, with screams echoing in the building alongside beast-like roars. Very quickly, many Yutai researchers working there were torn apart. Alarms echoed throughout the National Medical Research Institute, with emergency procedures activated, and the disturbances in the National Medical Research Institute being reported urgently. Haifa City already had a military presence on alert due to the threat of the genetic warriors, so it only took a moment for advanced support troops to arrive. A company-level unit of over 100 Yutai soldiers arrived near the National Medical Research Institute by transport vehicles. Attention! A virus leak has occurred at the National Medical Research Institute, with virus-infected humans appearing like zombies in movies. Prioritize safety. Shoot to kill upon detection. The commander of this Yutai unit spoke up, relaying the orders as required by superiors. Zombies! The Yutai soldiers who heard this each had strange expressions, with some even laughing out loud. Captain, you must be joking. How could there be zombies in our city? Haha! If zombies are real, that'd be best. Let them taste my bullets. It's probably just some virus-infected humans displaying symptoms like rabies. Those researchers sure are timid.